Helldivers 2 continues to garner great player engagement, but I have concerns about some of the growing player trends in the realm of farming. All video games face this challenge. You need to protect players from themselves, or they will just optimize the fun right out of the game. And it is instinctive for us as humans to seek the path of least resistance, but it can end up working against the video game's design as well as our own enjoyment of the game. And the real challenge facing developers is overreacting or not reacting at all. Both run the risk of hurting player engagement or the player experience. So I wanted to walk through what's happening and look at suggestions from the community. I've even got some of my own ideas about how they could address this. But we also have new information about how the Game Master works and what his name is, and there's upcoming content additions. We've seen the leaked mech, footage. There's a new faction, new enemies, new guns, and more. Now, I put all of the good information at the front of the video in the form of a monologue. It's a longer video because it's a live stream. That way you don't have to go looking for it. And if you enjoy watching these videos, many people watch these as a past broadcast, consider supporting the channel directly with a membership. The $6 member tier is our standard tier, and it gets you in to all the extra content. And if you're a coffee drinker, check out reforgeroast.com. Our coffee is not a sponsor, and it does support us directly when you do that, and we appreciate that very much. And again, if you hit subscribe and that bell button, it'll ensure that you're here for the live shows. Well, Helldivers 2 has a farming problem, and I believe it needs to be addressed sooner than later. Right now, it doesn't really seem to be causing any major problems, but if it's left unchecked, I have concerns about what this could do to player engagement. Also, player behavioral patterns and the Galactic War Table. There's also some exciting stuff that I would like to discuss as well. There was the leaked mech footage. We're hearing about new weapons, new enemies, a new faction, as well as the Game Master and what that could do to the game. And since they increased capacity to 700,000, the game's score has improved on Steam and the wait times are virtually gone. So first, I want to look at what's happening, right? There are two types of farming that I believe should be sort of curbed here. One is XP and the other is for super credits. Now, full disclosure, I don't want folks to be stopped from grinding or earning things that they're focusing on, right? If you're really putting your time in and you're really wanting to get a bunch of stuff in the game, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade, okay? What I'm talking about is ensuring that players are incentivized to engage in the game in a healthy way, so it doesn't turn into degenerate behavior or working against the game's design, which fundamentally hurts your enjoyment and can harm the game for everybody else. And I know they're saying it's not affecting the planets and the war table. I'm going to show why that's simply not true in the long-term effects of this. Second, I want to look at the reactions to this. I asked the community for suggestions on how to address this, and we got a variety of responses. Some I think are just completely unhelpful, but others I do think are getting at the heart of the matter. Now, lastly, I will tell you what I think. I do believe that they should get in front of this, but I have a very moderate and more balanced ideas on how to course correct. You don't want to overreact. You don't want to micromanage. So up first, what exactly is happening? So as I said, there's two types of farming that's happening right now. And obviously talking about it is sort of a double-edged sword because many of you might not have a clue about these methods of farming. And then once you hear about them, you may try them. Then you get hooked. And then that becomes the way that you play the game. Now, I always caution players against optimizing their gameplay too much because it becomes a mechanical exercise and it expedites burnout and boredom with the game. This is why developers have to consider good ways to protect players from themselves. If you could run in a circle and level up the fastest and get the best drops, well, players are going to run in a circle for multiple hours a day until they can't take it anymore. And then they're not really engaging with the game itself. They're engaging with a mechanic or a loophole. This type of gameplay can function almost like an infection of the mind. It makes it really tough to go back to organic or normal gameplay. So be advised, I am not encouraging you to use these methods. Quite the opposite. I encourage players to typically avoid these types of farming methods because of what it does to your enjoyment. Now, the first method is one that folks are using to get super credits. They're picking one particular mission, they drop down, they quickly farm as many super credits as they can get, and then they abandon the mission. Yes, that is correct. You do not have to extract to keep the super credits. Now, this doesn't work for the samples that you find or your XP that you're earning. You do need to extract to get credit for samples and XP. Now, the devs have responded and said that abandoning the mission or abandoning an operation does not automatically hand a win to the enemy. Now, that was first the primary concern that folks had. Obviously, if this behavior spreads, you will have more and more players not completing missions, not completing operations, which will, I think, slow the progress and lead to planets being lost. Now, some assumed that a planet was lost because too many people were doing this, but I've seen others say that there was this escort mission, it was bugged, and that was the culprit. Apparently, people weren't running to the spot. Like the enemies that the people you're supposed to be saving, they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So people were abandoning that. Now, I've not seen the devs address this. They did say they adjusted the difficulty of the defend missions, but I'm being told that the escort missions are still sort of bugging out, and they were bugging out over the weekend, and the NPCs weren't going to the door. Now, this led to people just sort of not doing those missions, which then led to losing a planet. At least that's the theory that I'm being told. Now, that actually backs what I'm saying, okay? What I'm saying is that if there's something in the game that causes players to stop doing something in large enough numbers, it will affect the galactic war map in a negative way, okay? If you can pinpoint a bug or a problem or a mission that's not working properly, and you can say, hey, this is driving people to not do this, and that's why we lost the planet, well, then so will these farming methods if they spread and catch on and more people do them, especially because you can do this to earn super credits. Super credits are quite literally the currency that you can buy with real money. And we all know when there's something in the game that costs money, and if you can earn it on your own, and there's loopholes to getting it faster and more effectively, that's what people are going to do. Now, the second method of farming pertains to XP, and this method has players abandoning operations. This method has you pick a swarm or forces mission. You set it to difficulty 9, which is Helldive difficulty. You get a 250% bonus on your XP, and the mission is very short and very fast. And then when it's completed, you abandon the operation, and then you just look for another one, wash, rinse, repeat. You just keep doing this over and over again. So those using this method are reporting very steady and expedited leveling from about level 30 to 50. This is typically when people are going to be using this, because going from 30 to 50 is when things are either going to slow down or you're just trying to get to the end, right? So those are the two methods of farming. The one is for super credits, and I think that's always going to be relevant. There's always new cosmetics. There's always going to be a battle pass, okay? The other method for XP will most likely appeal to higher level players, and both of these methods have players abandoning missions and abandoning operations. Now, my concern is this will spread. It'll become the standard meta of leveling at high levels or getting super credits, and progress on the war table will be negatively affected. Now, the good news is we've got good things coming that could maybe divert people's attention or get them to stop doing this. And I'm going to talk more about how I think they can use incentivization. I don't want them punishing people or restricting people. I think there are good ways to change player behavior. And we do have some new things that look great. There was the leaked mech footage. It looks like a blast. We've also heard things like you're going to be able to call down AI Super Earth soldiers to help you. There's a car or a buggy-like vehicle that is coming, a new faction, new mission types, new flying enemies, new guns that are apparently going to be laser-based. Now, none of this is confirmed, but the mech footage was genuine. So, I asked the community how the devs should approach this farming situation, okay? And they did an interview about the game master, the sort of the Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master person that's going to be able to control the game. And his name is Joel. And they actually got the name Joel to trend on Twitter. Like, that's kind of how viral this game is right now. I thought that was pretty funny. So I asked for suggestions. Like, what should they do to curb this, or to get people to stop doing it, or to just, again, my goal is to get people to sort of be redirected. Play in this way. This is a better way to earn XP and super credits, right? Now, the first suggestion I saw was people were saying, well, just reduce the rewards and the XP. The problem with this is it hurts the normal players too. I don't want everybody playing the game to suddenly be getting less XP or super credits simply because there are unhealthy patterns emerging in the player base, right? The best course of action to avoid, I think, would be a punitive or a restrictive response. I don't think that will help. You can use good incentivization to change or redirect player behavior. That's, I think, the way to approach something like this. If you punish players or you restrict their behavior, it's a quick route to pushing players out of the game. Punitive and restrictive responses should be only really reserved for people who are actively cheating, running cheat software, or if they're griefing other players, right? I don't know if they put anything into place like that. Like if somebody matchmakes with you and they just keep killing you because they think it's funny, that's obviously one risk of when you play matchmaking. That's another risk, though, of these grind patterns spreading, is that if you matchmake with somebody doing this, you're going to wonder what in the world's going on. Now, another suggestion that I saw that I think is just extreme, people were saying, oh, you should warn them, temporarily ban them, and then ban them. Now, I could not disagree with this more. When players find a fast farming route or a quick way to level, punishing them for that, I think, is the worst response possible. Now, alerting players with an in-game message after you've closed the loophole or maybe you've made some adjustments, I think that's fine. But you would want it to read sort of in the following way. You would want to say something to the effect of, we understand players love to get super credits and XP as fast as possible, but we want it to be done in a way that promotes healthy gameplay for everyone. We've made the following changes so that earn rates are better for those who complete missions and operations. See, what you do there is you acknowledge the desire of the player and you affirm that it's totally fine to want that. It's totally fine to want to get super credits and XP as fast as you can. But then you point and you say, this is the best way to do that. This is the best way for you to get those things. It's classic redirection. It works with children and it will certainly work with gamers, all right? Now, a lot of people responded to my inquiry about this, and they said, I didn't even know this was a thing, which is perfectly understandable, right? Hopefully, you will all stay gleefully naive and just keep playing the game in the ways that it was intended. I genuinely think that the internet and YouTube is one of the greatest and one of the worst things to happen to gaming. When I was researching this, I did a simple Google image search for Helldivers 2 Farm, and I saw all of the cliche YouTube guides. Fastest farm, tons of super credits and samples in 30 minutes. And I get it. Listen, folks are simply offering a product that is in demand. People go to YouTube and they want to know the fastest way to get all the things. But I always kind of have to roll my eyes at the same patterns that always emerge for games. A game comes out, gamers are having fun, YouTube videos and guides land on how to get everything as fast as possible, gamers get everything as fast as possible, and then gamers complain there is nothing to do. Wash, rinse, repeat. This is precisely why you have to redirect players and protect them from themselves. Now, thankfully, in the same vein as those saying that they didn't know this was a thing, I had a lot of people say, I'm not running into this, okay? I hope that this is true for most players, because I was primarily concerned about what this would do to matchmaking. There's nothing worse than matchmaking into a game and folks are doing some kind of weird nonsense and then they just bail and leave. Then you have no clue what's going on, right? It would be easy for a new player to conclude, well, this game is lame. I always end up alone and then I fail the mission. Like there's nobody with me, okay? That, again, is one of the concerns, is that this will spread and it will hurt and harm matchmaking. Now, the last response that I want to address before telling my thoughts on this is people are saying, well, the developers say that farming is not helping the enemy. First, this is technically true, but not really. Yes, they clarified that abandoning missions or operations does not automatically hand a win to the enemy. But to claim that this isn't helping the enemy is utter nonsense. Pockets of your most dedicated players choosing to spend their long play sessions not completing missions and not completing operations, that is 100% helping the enemy. Those are player hours that are meant to be spent winning operations for democracy, and instead, player manufactured short loops are being used to maximize super credits and XP. And again, I have no problem with players doing what they think is best for their experience, but if this spreads, as this type of player behavior is prone to do, it will affect the metagame of the Galactic War. We dictate where the game goes. They have said this. They have said they have no idea what the game's going to look like in a couple of months. And this will have an effect if it is not curbed. So, this is a good time for me to tell you my thoughts, some of my ideas on how to approach this, okay? I've been covering games like this for a very long time, and I don't want the devs to overreact. So first and foremost, I think they need to get in front of this. Of all the games and all the years I've covered games of this type of behavior, it will spread, and it will undeniably have a negative effect on the game. First, it will hurt matchmaking, and second, it will hurt the Galactic War. Now, I've always said that the best way to change player behavior is with incentivization. Punitive or restrictive responses tend to bring about the wrong result. You just drive players away from your game. So, I have a few ideas that could help. When it comes to the super credits farm, a very easy solution would be just require folks to extract in order to get their super credits. Within the scope and the design of the game, it makes no sense to have anything farmable come with you when you don't extract. I generally think this solves the super credits farm problem. You could cause more trouble than it's worth, though, given that you don't want glitches or bugs causing folks to lose or not get their super credits, since it is a currency that costs real money. Now, in the realm of XP, abandoning operations is sometimes necessary. Something a player will actually want to do. You're like, oh, I want to switch I'm playing with somebody else, or I'm playing with somebody who doesn't have quite as many stratagems. Maybe you want to change difficulty or something. But abandoning operations should probably be de-incentivized, okay? You could do this by charging them an XP tax for abandoning an operation. Yes, this is somewhat punitive, but if you did it in the vein of the lore, scolding them as a Helldiver for abandoning, right? You could also try and use incentive versus like a negative reinforcement. You could have some sort of XP multiplier that it doesn't really hit until you've completed the operation, almost like you're banking XP, but you don't get that extra, nice big chunk of XP until the operation is complete. You want to make it to where blitzing and abandoning is not as effective as completing an operation. What you're doing is you're saying, what you want is XP as fast as possible. This is now the fastest way. This is the better way than what you're currently doing. You don't want it to feel like a punishment. That may require some adjustments, maybe some nerfs, and then people might interpret that as a punishment. But again, the health of the game matters more. If something like this goes unchecked, it will become how the most dedicated players play. Once you get to those upper levels and you're really just focusing on, getting from level 30 to 50, folks are going to do this more and more. I also think the devs need to be prepared to make adjustments ongoing, while also avoiding the dreaded pendulum swing of overreaction. It can sort of feel like player behavior whack-a-mole. You just stop players from doing X, and then they all go over here, and then they start doing Y. And then you stop them from doing Y, and then they all go over here, and they start doing Z. This is why their ability to update the game with the game master, make changes, and sort of update the community, I think that's going to be key in redirecting or changing player behavior in the game. And I will not pretend that their job is easy. If you go too hands-off, well, then things can go off kilter. As they said, that before the game even came out, player behavior will dictate how this game's story and how the war unfolds. But you have to balance true dynamic emergence with protecting the health of the game. Players need to be protected from themselves to a degree that they can't really detect that it's happening. And the game needs to be protected from the players to a degree that doesn't harm the organic nature of how things unfold. But that's just what I think. What do you think? So let me give you my closing thoughts and conclusion on this. Whenever I talk about player incentivization, I typically get a couple of sort of cliche responses. People will say, well, just leave the players alone, right? Just let us do what we want to do. And then there's other people that are like, well, just ban them, okay? Both of these are obviously extreme positions that don't really have the game's health and the game's longevity in mind, right? You simply cannot just leave players to their own devices. They will cannibalize their own fun, and they will cannibalize everybody else's fun if you let them. The challenge is getting them to play in a way that feels like they're choosing it out of their own desire rather than being coerced or restricted. That's why I think incentivization works best, because we say we're going to acknowledge this is what you want. You want XP and you want super credits, and we're going to empower you to get them in the ways that the game has been designed. And so they choose it because that's what they want. They're not choosing it because you're forcing them to do it that way. The second thing I want to say is Helldivers 2 is probably one of the few games that can break the fourth wall when it comes to this type of thing. They can scold, they can reprimand the player base, and they can do it in a fun way. It can be part of the lore and part of the unfolding story, you know? All right, Helldivers, you're doing things the wrong way. And then they just start pulling back and saying, you need to go over here, or you need to do this if you really want to get your super credits or your XP. You can sort of mask nerfs and buffs or updates, and that aims at sort of changing how folks play the game, and you could just use a message from Super Earth, and it's in the pursuit of democracy. The reception might be different than other games that face these similar problems because they just kind of have to do a patch update and tell you, hey, we had to close this loophole, right? Micromanaging a player base can lead to cynicism. It can lead to abandonment of the game. Now, thankfully, the devs don't seem to be the type to overreach or to annoy the players, but they could err on the side of not interfering a little too much. And as I've said, it could lead to unhealthy patterns in the game behavior and in the gamer sort of hive mind. My conclusion is this. As far as I can tell, Helldivers 2 has a very bright future. They have an addicting and very fun content loop. They've got a world and a lore pool that they can use to expand and consistently update and change the game and keep it fresh. And they have virality. As I said just this morning, the name Joel was trending on Twitter with over 66,000 posts because they did an interview talking about the Game Master, and his name is Joel, right? My only word of caution to the devs, don't let things spiral into too much player-led chaos, because it could fold back on itself and hurt the momentum as well as the returning player numbers. You need the momentum. You need those returning players. That is totally needed for a long and healthy future. And I actually trust that they can pull it off. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You guys are not taking it easy this morning. During my show opening monologue, we had an absolute banger start to the day. A 20 bomb from MASH. He says, Han shot first and I'm going to as well, but he uses a cannon. And then Insomniac Black drops a 5 bomb on the stream, getting us our first 25 members already on the day. That means I already owe you guys 5 members. We were going for a stretch goal of 3,500. You'd need like 500 members today if you're going to get that stretch goal. That would mean next week when we do community game night, Creature would have to come. He's grumpy about it. He's like, no, that was last month. Well, it's still February. Unlucky for him, it's the 29th of February, and it would be hilarious if we use the leap year to hit that stretch goal. So thank you so much, MASH, and thank you so much, Insomniac Black. I'm going to drop the 5 members on chat that I already owe you. I want to know what you guys think about this, right? Are you concerned that this is going to have a negative effect? Number one, is it a concern? Do you share my concern that, like, okay, this is going to spread, this is going to be bad for the Galactic War, this is going to be bad for matchmaking, like more and more people are going to do this, especially when they learn they can farm super credits, because super credits are quite literally, like, that's real money to a certain extent. Welcome back, Joker Quinn, 9 months and a VIP. And if you do share my sentiment, like, well, this is kind of a concern. You got people abandoning missions. They're just getting super credits and leaving. And then you got people grinding XP and they're abandoning operations. Like, they're not even going to be finishing their operations. And a 5 bomb comes in from Joker Quinn. That's Agents of Chaos behavior right now. He pushes us to 30, and that is 20 away from 50, tempting a 20 bomb to slam it home to 50 and get us very close to, the halfway point of 100. That's incredible. Yes, it is a concern. Takashi says Lono has said it all. Hello, Reforge. Hope you and the fam are good. Good to see you, Hellfire. You should have to extract in order to get anything. I think that's the quickest route to, like, basically stopping people from doing the super credits farm, right? You got to extract, okay? But abandoning an operation, it's like, sometimes you need to do that. Like, I've abandoned operations because I'm like, oh, I'm playing with my wife now, and we left off where, okay, we did the find the eggs mission, and now we got to do this one here. And, like, maybe I came back the next day and we haven't done it yet. Well, now I might want to do something else. Well, I have to abandon that operation. I think it needs to be an incentive thing where, like, okay, I acknowledge that as abandoning this operation, I am, foregoing or sacrificing a bunch of extra XP, right? Instead of saying, no, you can't do that, or punishing the player, it's like, no, we're incentivizing you to finish the operation. Here's a bunch of XP, like bonus XP or something. And if you abandon the operation, you're going to lose all that XP. Like, they haven't given it to you yet. It would, like, be banked, right? You'd, like, see it in this bank of, like, hey, this is waiting for you if you finish the operation, and you're basically saying, no, I don't want it. It should be the one mission, not the whole operation. I'm not sure what you mean, Garrett. Do we know why they made credits different from the samples? This is what I think's going on, Zubair. Because super credits are quite literally a currency bought with real money, I think they wanted to avoid any bugs or glitches. It immediately gets applied to your account, and then it cannot be lost. That's why it works the way that it works. That's my sort of, 30,000 foot theory as to why they would say when you pick up the super credits, they're instantly credited to you and they cannot be lost. Because I don't think they would want somebody to be like, man, I found a bunch of super credits and then the game lagged out, or I disconnected and I lost my super credits. And a 20 bomb from Christopher Wright. He went crazy yesterday, and he does it again today. And he takes us all the way to 50. And I owe you another 5. What a monster. That makes a lot of sense, thank you. Right, because it's not like an internal currency that you simply use to, like, unlock a stratagem or unlock stuff for your ship. It's a genuine, like, real world currency to a certain degree, because you can buy it with real money. So that's what I think they do. I think you pick up the super credits, they instantly are credited to your account, and someone figured it out. They were like, oh, we don't even have to extract. Let's just go look for all of the super credit locations, and then let's get the heck out of here. Buffalo Wing Dave says, also with super credits being, I'm still deafened in Discord, sorry. With super credits being real money, you also don't want someone getting kicked by another player right before extraction. Right, exactly. Like, you're about to extract and you're like, oh man, we found a bunch of super credits, this is dope, and then they kick you and then you don't get it. Right. Jake says this will change now. Yo, what's good, Head Killer? Haven't seen you in a while, man. Players should not be penalized. Sometimes you can't complete 3 or 4 missions and have to leave because of life. Yeah, Scott, I have no problem with that. That's why I think it's always better. It's always better if you want player behavior to change, use an incentive, like make it magnetic, create a magnetism of like, you want to come over here and do this. And it's okay if sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're just like, I got to abandon the operation, bro. I was playing the other night. We got to do one more thing. I'm not going to do that one more thing right now. I'm going to go over here and do this other thing with my friends, so I have to abandon the mission. Well, it's going to put in front of you, this is my suggestion, it's going to put in front of you the notion that there's all this bonus XP waiting for you if you complete the operation. And what that does is the XP grinder is going to say, it's worth it to finish the operation. We're going to get more XP than blitzing, abandoning. Because that's what they're doing is they're finding one particular mission type, blitzing it because it's really fast, and then they just abandon the operation and look for another one. Now, for somebody to say that's not going to affect planets or losing or winning planets, to say that's not going to affect it, I think is absurd. If thousands upon thousands of players a day start doing this, that will affect the war table, because instead of them completing operations and helping the percentage go up, they're not doing their part. you're basically creating a bunch of dead weight. People that are in the game, people that are playing, people that are matchmaking, people that are grinding, and they're not actively winning operations for democracy. You're right. Super credits for everyone. If it's a change, you could get easily kicked. Yeah, I guess that's the problem. If you require extraction to get your super credits, then someone could kick you before you extract just to be a douche, which I guess people could do that right now anyway, and you wouldn't get your XP and you wouldn't get your samples. That's always a concern, right? When players can do that, when players can be, playing a game like this where there's a clear end point required for success, and they can decide to be a jerk and just like as you're about to board the ship, just clunk, 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 shoot you, and then go into the menu and kick you, and then now you don't get any of your stuff. Helldivers needs a raid. I need to do the 5 that I owe you guys, right? Let me double check. I don't think I've done the other 5. 1 second. Let me check my emails. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee. Thank you so much for doing that. The best of both worlds. Trying out the light roast and the dark roast. I'm trying to start mentioning some of the ways to support the stream at the very beginning, just because a lot of people come back, watch the VOD just for the monologue, and I appreciate that so much. I just want to let those people know, like, hey, there are other great ways to support what we do. Like, I totally understand somebody not wanting to necessarily do a membership if they're only ever watching the VODs. So a lot of people are coffee drinkers, and that's another great way of supporting what we're doing here. So let me go ahead and gift the 5 that I owe you guys. We've already hit 50 members on the day, thanks to people like Mash and Christopher Wright and Insomniac Black, just going crazy with member gifts, and we appreciate you guys so much, as well as Joker Quinn. Thank you very much, Joker Quinn. I'm doing my part. That's right. Everybody's got to do their part. It happens now. Extraction, sabotage by a-holes. Yeah, there's got to be a way to report people that are griefing like that. Like, if you're literally just ruining somebody else's experience, like you go in, you match make, and then you get to the end and you kick somebody to be a jerk. Like, there's got to be a way to report people. And then if you get enough reports in a day, they need to look at your behavior. They need to run an audit on somebody at the end of the day. Like, hey, this guy got reported, 6 or 7 times in a day for griefing. And they run a report and they see, yeah, he keeps kicking people at the end of missions. Well, give that guy a 7-day ban, Give him a 7-day ban. There's games like this, you've got to consider what will start to happen if you don't have things in place to curb that kind of behavior. Folks kick, get samples, and extract alone, in fact, hurting themselves. Lost XP for exfil. Right. They wrongly think that they're gonna get more by kicking somebody. Right. Selling coffee and doing streams early in the AM. Awesome marketing strategy. I appreciate that. Again, guys, the coffee, this is not a sponsor. We pay to have this roasted and bagged and shipped to us. My wife and kiddos send this to you with little cute thank you notes from my kids. You're supporting basically like a small business when you buy it. If you're a coffee drinker and you have never tried coffee with balanced acidity before, you should try. Do what the person did this morning. Get that best of both worlds. Try both the light roast and the dark roast. You can only report if they type anything in game chat. Really? They're going to have to reevaluate that then. They're going to have to reevaluate that. You never want to have player behavior like that going unchecked. You want to be able to curb that down and say, you can't have people just, kicking and griefing at the end of a mission. I mean, that's a fast way for somebody just to stop playing. You get kicked once or twice in an evening. You're like, well, I'm not going to play this stinking game. I can't make any progress. Because you won't make any progress. You don't get any of your stuff. This is going to be a learn as they go for Arrowhead to keep up with the BS of toxic players and live service. Got to have patience with them. Right, and that's exactly where I said this in the show open. They can break the fourth wall and be like, Helldivers, and they can start scolding somebody or scolding the community and saying, we're getting reports across the galaxy war that you're abandoning your posts. And basically tell people, we don't want you to do that. So we're going to pay you to not do it. You know what I'm saying? We farm our butt off, but we don't kick people. Victor Mayhem says there's a block feature in the game, so you can block them, but it doesn't stop it from the overall perspective. Well, sure, you can only do that after the fact, and if you're in a mission for 30 minutes or 40 minutes and you only have an hour or 2 hours to play, they just killed, 30% of your evening. Yo, good to see you, Catwalk. 12 months in a VIP, a whole year of membership. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying Helldivers 2. It's too bad there are selfish people out there ruining the experience for others. You can hear them talking as well without being in voice chat. What do you mean? How do you hear them talking are you saying you can hear them talking without talking yourself? I was with a group of guys just repeating the N-word over and over, and I couldn't report them because they didn't type. I just blocked them, but come on. Their system allow reports for that type, but not voiced. Yeah, you need the ability to report players. Like, just go to them and say, report this player for whatever, toxic communication or toxic behavior. And then if they get enough reports in a day, you run an audit on their account and give them a temp ban. Run an audit on their account and do a temp ban. Like there ain't no way you're going to get false reports that many times. Somebody's doing something if that many people are reporting it. Game would be broken if friendly fire was turned off. No, you can't turn friendly fire off. No. I had my own concerns before the game came out. Friendly fire can be funny for a while, and then it gets kind of old. It works in this game. It's part and parcel to the fabric of the game. You can't turn it off. Before I had played it, before I really knew how the game operated, like we had a very basic idea, I had concerns. I was like, friendly fire in some games, that's exactly like what happened. Like the first hour or so, it's all like, haha, that's funny. But then it can turn really, really bad. I don't think that's the case with Helldivers. I think friendly fire is absolutely needed for the game to function as it's designed. Folks with mics rarely type in chat. Yeah, there's no reason to. You can just quickly say, go over there. Especially on PlayStation, the mic's in the controller. I don't even have to do anything. I'm sitting on my couch. I'm just like, yep, go over there. The only problem with not using a headset is it's hard to hear people sometimes through the TV, over all of the... all of the cacophony of sound of the game. If you guys are just tuning in, make sure and smash that like button. It helps me out, helps the video out. We're discussing the Helldivers 2 farming and how I think it's a problem currently that I don't want to see restricted or punished, but I think they should come up with incentives to sort of redirect player behavior to complete missions and to complete operations. That's generally the two things that are happening. People are abandoning missions because you don't need to extract to get your super credits, and they're abandoning operations because they're looking for the fastest operations to do at the highest difficulties of like 9. Even you don't even necessarily have to do 9. You could just do 7 or 8 and still blitz the mission and then abandon the operation. A $5 tip from the Green Monster says, how about you lose strats on your next mission when you abandon a mission? Well, again, you need to be careful because any reaction to a pocket of behavior affects the whole, okay? So let's say you've got right now, let's just low estimate this. Let's say on an average week, 5% of the people logging in are doing this. They're abandoning missions with super credits, and they're abandoning operations to grind XP. Okay? 5%. And you react to that 5%, and you say, well, if you abandon a mission or an operation, you can't use stratagems next time. Right? You can't use stratagems next time. Well, what that ends up doing is it hits the other 95% of the player pool that's not doing anything. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not playing in a weird way. They're not abandoning missions or operations as a means of grinding. They just might happen to need to. Or maybe they get disconnected, right? You got to be super, super careful. You're going to swing that pendulum back and you're going to hit the whole community with a change, and then everybody's going to be like, what the heck? Like, what? Why is this all of a sudden happening? You don't want to react to 5% and then affect the whole. That's why you use incentivization. Why? Because everybody's trying to do the same thing. And if you say, hey, it's now way more lucrative to complete the operation, it's way more lucrative to extract, that helps the entire player base rather than hurting the entire player base. Yo, Ganks with 35 months for freedom, for democracy. Remember, all who fell in the creek. Space Vietnam. Thank you so much, Ganks, for almost 3 years of memberships. you have to stop because of a phone call or kids or something. Yeah, real life happens, and that's why punitive or restrictive response in games like this, it needs to be reserved for people that are griefing or cheating. You don't want to have a punitive or restrictive response to somebody who's just like, well, I abandoned the operation because I wanted to do a different one with my friends now, and now I'm punished, I disconnected, or I got a phone call and I had to leave the mission, and now I'm punished for that. Like, you don't want to do that. You should be able to make progress in the war effort for completing one mission instead of having to complete the whole operation. I don't think I agree with that, Garrett. Hang on, I'm kind of breaking it down in my brain right now on what that would do. Because what that would do is that would then essentially make the grinders who are grinding XP, they're blitzing, abandoning operations, they would then be actively helping, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. However, I think the negative effect of what you're talking about is now everybody is going to say, we don't have to complete operations, and all they will do is optimize. That's all they'll care about. They'll just go fastest mission, fastest mission, fastest mission, fastest mission, fastest mission. No, you don't want to promote that kind of player behavior. That expedites boredom. That expedites familiarity. That expedites burnout. You want people to willingly choose to do lots of different mission types, because that keeps familiarity and repetition down, and that keeps like player engagement and enjoyment up. If you basically inadvertently motivate people to just pick the fastest missions and just blitz, you're basically speed running boredom. It's like you're going to be so bored so much faster when you play a game in that way. I've talked about this before with open world games, and how I say that, players can work against their own enjoyment in an open world game, because what they do is they streamline the story, and then suddenly they want to clear the map. So they do, like, let's take Spider-Man 2 as an example. Now all of a sudden they're doing, how you can like take pictures in Spider-Man 2? If you save that for like the end of the game and you take like 10 pictures in a row, you're going to get so fed up with that. But as you're playing through Spider-Man 2, if one's nearby and you're sort of keeping the map in view, and you're always doing like, I'm going to stop a crime, I'm going to take a picture, what you're doing is you're interlacing variety into your playthrough. And so the rhythm with which you take the picture is more spread out. So what doesn't happen is familiarity and repetition in a game works against itself when it's like picture, 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 and you're like, I'm so sick of taking pictures. But if it's interlaced and it's more spread out, your boredom and your familiarity and that contempt that comes from repeating something over and over again, it doesn't happen as fast. It might not even happen at all in a game like Spider-Man 2 if you're creating that variety within your gameplay. So if you have people that are like, well, I got to get the XP, and the best way to get the XP is to pick the fastest missions and ignore all these other missions, and it's just mission, they're now engaging with the game in a purely mechanical way. And the organic or dynamic or the variety nature of the game is just getting thrown out the window. It's just the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And when you do that, this is the real dilemma. They're going to stop playing eventually, okay? They're going to stop playing eventually. And their memory when they stop playing can either be, I am so burned out, I'm so sick of running these missions, I finally got to level 50, and then they take their break. You've now decreased the likelihood of them returning to the game. You want somebody to hit level 50 and be like, that was so much fun, man. We were constantly doing different missions. We were constantly engaging in different length of mission type, enemy type, stratagem type, whatever. So when they leave, there's more of like this, there's a better memory in their brain of the game. Does that make sense? A $5 super chat tip from Victory. An easy fix is a handsome payout of currencies, including credits upon completion of entire operations and maybe higher XP gains. That's, I think, the ticket, Victory. You have to use incentivization to say, If you complete this operation, here's all these goodies. You're foregoing this if all you care about is blitzing and getting XP and then abandoning the operation. That's not punitive. You're not punishing a player. You're saying, hey, man, we got a carrot over here, and if you want this carrot, then you got to complete the operation. You're choosing not to. You're choosing to forego a reward. Yo, I've arrived. Witness me. 36 months for Zuby, and it's a VIP 3 whole years. Thank you so much, Zubair. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, everybody who's been doing memberships lately. If you've never done a membership before on YouTube, consider doing one here, or hang out long enough to get a gifted membership and you can kind of sample and try out what we do. But if you're going to pick up your own membership, choose the $6 tier. It's called member. The $5 is called gifted because that's kind of reserved for gifted. We do a lot of that here. And you can get into our Discord. You can become a part of what we do here. If you can't do any of that, that's totally fine. Smash that like button. Let's set our sights on 200 likes. That will certainly help us have more people find the stream. It helps me and it helps the community here grow whenever you guys are smashing that like button. And we are at 3,050 members. You guys already got us halfway to the 3,100 mark. We were trying to hit 3,500. I don't know if you guys can do that in one day. We were trying to do that before February ended, and we'll see. What did Eugene say? The carrot only works with the stick. You need to. What do you mean, Eugene? Carrot only works with a stick, as in like it needs to be further out. Talking a lot of crap for a guy with a red badge. Is this a PC issue or all over? Because I've not experienced anything like this. I found groups and we fully clear the map. Here's the thing, Matt. That's great, and I'm excited that people are saying that they're not running into this. Okay? I'm excited. It's like, okay, good. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I believe it will spread. I have covered games like this for almost 9 years. I covered Borderlands, and they did nerfs and changes and stuff to their game. I covered Destiny 1. I covered Destiny 2. I covered The Division 1. I covered The Division 2. I covered Anthem. I have covered more live service games than non-live service games, I think. And I'm here to tell you, I covered New World. I covered Lost Ark. I covered Diablo 4. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't get in front of something like this, it's what everybody will start doing. It will spread. You'll be like, Lono doesn't know what he's talking about. Nobody's doing that. And in a week, you'll run into it. And then you'll run into it again and again and again. It will spread. If people learn they can get super credits without extracting, you're going to matchmake, and you are going to run into people doing that. As soon as they realize they can get a currency that costs real money, and all they got to do is drop in, farm them, and get out, that's what players will do. We ran into this in New World. Virtually every other week, there was a new XP farm. Do you guys remember the boar farm in New World? Remember how quickly that spread? It was like within a day, people are talking about it. YouTube videos were up and guides were up on how to do the XP boar farm in New World, the MMO. And Helldivers 2 farm guides are everywhere. They're everywhere. How to get super credits, how to get samples extra fast. Now that's a whole animal that happens with games. It's what people search for, so the YouTubers provide it. It's a product that's in demand. I don't think the YouTubers are doing anything wrong, but it always leads to the same thing. It's like a game comes out and everybody's having a fun time, and then the guides hit the internet and everybody uses the guides. They maximize and optimize, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I don't have anything to do. And it's like, well, yeah, because you played in an unnatural way and you ran in a 2-foot circle to get all the XP and super credits you could, and now you're bored. Well, you didn't really even engage with the game. Instead of engaging with the game for a month and just playing with your buddies and healthily leveling up and organically engaging, you blitz it for 2 weeks and you're like, yep, I've got everything. Like, we are our own worst enemy. If we're not careful, that's what we do in games. We will absolutely cannibalize our own fun in the video game. And this is why the guy, he was one of the members of the Loot 2.0 team for Diablo 3. He said you have to protect players from themselves. And I sort of add on to that and say, You have to protect players from themselves in a way where they can't detect that it's happening. They need to feel like they're the one genuinely choosing to do the thing that they're doing. You don't want them to feel like they've been shoved toward a decision or coerced or restricted or punished. It should be, I want XP, I want super credits, and the developers have set up this way. This is a great way to do it, and they willingly choose to do it. And the whole time the developers saying that's what we want them to do. We want them to get into these grooves and these lanes. That's best for the player longevity, enjoyment, and the health of the game. But you've got to do it in a way where you're like, hey, that's the stuff you want over there, instead of like shoving players or putting up walls or banning players. Punitive and restrictive doesn't work, I don't think. That needs to be like a last resort for, again, like cheating and griefing, not somebody who's just optimizing their grind. By like 22 or 30 hours, my friend's time and mine, we had the premium pass amount of super credits just from normal play. There's zero reason to ever farm for them. Yeah, okay, so you say that, Mr. Roar, and you're not wrong. But human beings are going to human being. They're going to take the path of least resistance. They are. A 10 spot from Levi says, this is why I always try to avoid guides when I can. I think it's part of the reason I think that people don't enjoy gaming as much anymore. Yeah, I've touched on this before, where your most memorable experiences, like if you think back in your life to the games that are the most memorable, it's the games that immersed you into a world or story, and that's the memory, right? And we shatter all of that like a two-way mirror. We just hit that with a sledgehammer and bust through the mirage of immersion, and we engage with the raw mechanics of the game. Well, we crunch the numbers here on this spreadsheet, and if you run this mission in this amount of time, and then you abandon the operation, you look for another mission in this amount of time, in approximately 1 hour, you can net this much XP. Now, if you were to play organically and just complete operations, you would only net this much XP. Ergo, the absolute best way to optimize your grind and get the most XP is to play the game in this way. You have shattered through the wall, and you're looking dead at the code of the game at that point. You're just engaging with the pure, cold mechanics of the game. When you do that, you don't realize that you're doing it, but you're literally working against your own aims of enjoyment. It's also when you make those big discoveries naturally too. Right, like if the game has things set up in a way and you discover on your own, hey, this is a really great way to earn samples. I'll give an example. I didn't know that if you explored the map and found all the POIs and did all the little things, that you would get way more XP and way more samples and even more medals at the end of a mission. I didn't know that because I'm a very OBJ-oriented guy, right? Stick to the OBJ, 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 OBJ. Stick to the objective, right? Anytime that I would play headquarters in Call of Duty or Team Defender, all that mattered was the OBJ. Nothing else mattered. Get it done. I was playing that way. I would land and be like, well, we're supposed to get the eggs, and after we get the eggs, we're supposed to extract. And that's what I would do. Well, one evening, I played with some guys from the Discord, and they were just going around, doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden, we go to extract, and there's like maybe 5 minutes left. I mean, we've been down there for a long time, and we extract, and I'm getting all this stuff. I'm getting, the sample count was high, XP count was high. I had all these medals, and I was like, well, this is great. Do you see? I discovered that just through playing with other players, and then now that's how I want to play the game. It's like, this is how I want to play, right? My approach, my very simplistic utilitarian approach to playing the game and just like do the objective and get the heck out. My way of playing changed on my own. Like, I made that choice just through incentivization, like incentivized organic sort of player, discovery is what happened. And that's, I think, the ticket to getting people to not do this. Like, if you're going to farm a game, you know, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with farming a game. But the developers have a vested interest in getting you to not do that. Not because they're a nanny or because they're going to micromanage you. It's because they stand to gain from your extended enjoyment. They gain from that. If you're having a good time and you keep playing and so does your friends, that's going to impact how many people's, you know, are playing the game in 3 weeks and 4 and 5 and 6. And when they drop the mech in the game, or they drop a new faction, or they do something, your likelihood of returning goes up. And all of that is obviously linked to you spending money. So they have a vested interest in getting you to not play the game like a bonehead, where you're going to be, you know, you're going to be max level, but you're going to be burned out and bored. We know players will hit max level. We know players will get a little burned out or bored and they're going to stop playing. But you want that to be the result of they've kind of done everything and they're good and they're done. You don't want it to be because they smacked their head with a 2x4 for 7 days in a row and they're like, I got everything. You want a sandbox where one person's fun doesn't ruin another person's fun. That's another element of this Valiant. That's exactly right, because we haven't really talked about how this will end up making landfall in matchmaking. It'll end up making landfall on the tables not going to move. People are going to be like, I don't understand. We have roughly the same number of people logging in and playing every day. The player numbers haven't dropped that much, and the war table's not moving. What's happening? More and more slices of the community will start doing this, which means operations and missions are not being completed. And that will have an effect on the game. Samples, medals, super credits, rec slips awarded after op completion. Vote to kick, timeouts for re-education. If you leave an operation, this is the way, do your part. Yeah, I'm always going to want to avoid punitive response, like timing somebody out for leaving an operation or something. I don't think that should be no. If you abandon operations, you should be seeing that you're not, by what you want somebody to conclude on their own is that by abandoning operations, they're working against their own progress, not that they're being punished. Takashi says, this is offset at higher difficulties because of the multiplier. Finishing everything multiplied by 250% at Helldivers difficulty will earn much more than the fast finish bonus. That's another thing to consider. Yeah. I've only encountered XP farmers once. They were doing the kill 160 enemies mission. Every other time, full map completions. Now I'm level 30, made 1.5 thousand credits and lots of upgrades just from playing. Let them farm, we will lose the war. right? Like, if you just keep letting these people farm, yeah, exactly. We're gonna lose the war. That's exactly right. Helldivers is a second job. 100 hours normal battle pass plus 20 hours premium battle pass to finish. Every month a new battle pass. So Rash, are you being tongue in cheek, or are you saying maybe the earn rates need to be looked at? Like, do you think it's going to take too long? Like, if players sense as if the natural earn rates are too slow, are they sort of, is this why there's divergence and they're saying, oh, let's do this instead? I think people will do this no matter what. They press against a game and they find the weak points and they're like, everybody come over here. If you do this, it's the fastest. That happens in any game. I don't think that's avoidable. There is no perfectly balanced game that has never had this sort of thing happen. Gamers are always going to find those weak spots. We're like water. As water sort of rolls down like a mountain, it finds the paths of least resistance. Like, that's what gamers are going to do. They're just going to kind of whoosh. They're going to wash over a game. They're going to say, this mission's the fastest, this earn rate's the best, this gun's the strongest, this stratagem's the best. Like, that's always going to be the case. Like, we haven't even talked about this. I mean, the weapons that are absolute trash, compared to other weapons. There's weapons that are just like not even worth using. And then there are weapons that just are amazing. Like the breaker shotgun, is phenomenal. I don't even feel like using anything else after using that. Noble Stakes has been playing the bots exclusively for 2 weeks while I wait for my buddies to get the game to fight bugs. I'm level 41 and still feel like I haven't played half the game. Yeah, if you just stick to one enemy type, brother, it does. It plays very differently the minute you go and play against the other enemy types. That's one of the advantages they have if they suddenly add a faction and new planets and new planet types, new biomes. Yeah, I love the idea of, this is one of the things I've touched on, instead of just eternally letting you level up, I think they should add like new stratagem stations or something. Like you go up to the monitor and this is the stratagem station that's laser based, and they're all new, and these are stronger against this new enemy type, and they're stronger on this certain planetary type, and you're leveling up that station. You're getting currency, and when you spend it at that station, you're leveling that station up and unlocking all those stratagems. Well, that enables them to always inject the game with new content, new grinds, new things to do, new contextual power for the player. And instead, in like a year and a half where we're like, well, now the level cap is 160. It's no. I think that starts to get absurd. It doesn't feel like you're really doing anything anymore. It's like, oh, well, there's a new level cap. Oh, well, there's a new level cap. I think you use the stratagems to say, whole new armory of stratagems, whole new armory of weapons. We need these weapons, Helldiver, to fight the new threat. So now you don't feel like your grind has been completely uprooted, because you still have your weapons and stratagems that are very effective against the automatons or the bugs, the terminids. So you don't feel like they're undercutting and devaluing all of your work. They're doing sort of this lateral thing where it's like, well, if you come over here, we've got new weapons and stratagems, and they're particularly strong against these enemies and planetary types. This isn't power creep. This stuff's not suddenly stronger than these weapons and stratagems, because you want to incentivize people going for the new weapons and stratagems. You want to incentivize that, right? And if you incentivize that, well, then all of a sudden, well, this stuff's stronger than everything I've worked for. And what you end up doing there is that's called power creep. Now we're way stronger. Now the enemies need to be made stronger. No, you do lateral moves. So then there's a ceiling on how strong these weapons and stratagems are. Why? Because you have new enemies, and there's a ceiling on how strong those enemies are. So those lateral moves enable them to, they can do that for forever. You can do that for 5 years. In 5 years' time, you could have 20 stratagem stations. And armories of stratagem and weapons at those stations. You just keep doing the lateral moves. You don't even need 20. Honestly, you could circle back and they could rejuvenate, change, update, augment, or modify the weapons and the stratagems that we had from a year ago. Hey, man, the Terminids, they're evolving. They've got harder shells and new, new attacks. And we've got to, our science department's researched, better versions of the stratagems and the weapons that, we used to use against them. I mean, there's just so much they could do to keep things fresh. The game will hit a boredom wall, in my opinion, when it becomes a balanced meta mess. Well, I don't think I'm advocating, or anybody's really advocating, for a balanced meta mess. I think what I'm advocating for is protecting players against obsessive optimization. I don't think you punish or restrict or stop them from doing it. I think you incentivize them to take different pathways in the game. Healthier pathways in the game. Again, if you don't protect players from themselves, they will hurt their own experience. They will cannibalize their own experience. They will cannibalize the experience of others. Why we don't need level when all Helldivers are anonymous soldiers. Balance will organically change as they add new stuff. And maybe that's their goal, is rather than, micromanaging or babysitting the player pool, they could say, we will keep things fresh with chaos. You just suddenly add something, take something away, add a new enemy. Well, you know, whatever the case may be. What you're doing there is you're basically using chaos to keep things fresh. Like, I'll be honest, I feel like Fortnite did this. Now, Fortnite did this to the chagrin of professional Fortnite players, but they did it all the time. They're like, hey, everybody, we know there's a tournament today, but there's suddenly a boombox in the game that'll tear down structures. What? Now, what does that do? Well, anybody playing in the tournament, any professional player playing in the tournament, spends an entire day moaning and complaining about this stupid boombox that's ruining their gameplay experience and tearing down their structures. Well, what does Johnny Viewer do when he sees that? Oh, I'm going to go play, dude, a freaking boombox. That sounds great. It's a form of, like Troll's saying, it's a form of controlled chaos. You basically just throw something out there in the water and you're like, well, this is going to make a splash. And you just kind of let it, and everybody changes what they're doing or everybody modifies what they're doing. They do that with the Game Master role at the studio, actively changing modifiers, planets, and missions, like the free EMS strikes a week ago. Here's what I think they need to do with that, Noble. I love that they're doing that. And I love that they did an interview about that, and they got the name Joel to trend on Twitter just by doing that. Like, they literally did an interview about about the Game Master, and in so doing, the name Joel trended on Twitter. Like, I tweeted about that this morning. And if they're going to do that, if you're going to have this Game Master, and the Game Master is consistently doing stuff to the game, changing the game, then let us know. Like, really let us know. Like, we need a message from Super Earth or some type of a pop-up when you come into the game. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you need to make it crystal stinking clear that this crazy thing just happened. Like, I love that they send the tweets, but, like, let's say when they add this mech to the game, right? When they add this mech to the game, or the Game Master does something crazy, there needs to be like a pop-up, like some kind of a message from Super Earth that's like, you know, I don't know, something to the effect of, Helldiver, we've got bad things happening on the wall front, and they basically walk through everything that's going on, or, you know, or good things or whatever. You know, let Joel, yeah, bless Joel, we love Joel. Let Joel, you know, tinker with the game and do what he's going to do, but, like, really tell us, like, coming in the game and hitting your trigger to be like, oh, stratagems have been restricted, right? Strategies have been restricted. Or, oh, this has been enhanced. I don't think that's quite as, like, punchy as, you know, we want, if it's a dungeon master, if it's a game master, you know, give him a voice in the game, let him, you know. Yeah, I don't know why people are running with that narrative, Eugene. Guys like, yeah, I don't want to go that route. The random stratagems modifier was crazy. They'll probably play a video on the TV screen in your Super Destroyer. It needs to be something that plays once you're on your ship, because it needs to be something to the effect of, you don't want somebody to accidentally skip it. Like, we're so accustomed to skipping that opening Super Earth cinematic. You would want it to be something, you get on the ship and they're like, bing, you know, that maybe that girl that's standing there right when you get on the ship, and she's like, you know, it's like message from Super Earth, and, you know, and you go over and it tells you what's happened and what's been going on, like what has changed, you know, what's the modifier, what's the Game Master doing to the game. Link it to the tube announcement to subscribers. I'm not sure huh? Broadcast on your ship, big monitor, which will probably happen. Yeah, I think that would be really, really cool. If you babysit the players' fun, won't the players expect the devs to change something as soon as they get bored, creating unrealistic expectations of the devs? Well, I'm not advocating for them to babysit the players' fun. I think what I'm advocating for is putting up not necessarily guardrails. Picture it like grooves in, think of like irrigation. If you've got, rushing water and you start creating like ditches and grooves for the water to follow through, instead of putting up like guardrails or barriers to be like, you can't do this anymore. You better stop doing that, right? You're putting up guardrails, you're putting up barriers. Instead of that, think of it like grooves. You're creating grooves for people to be like, oh, this is better for super credits. This is better for XP. And that's redirection. You're getting the players to do what you want, but you're doing it in a way where they feel like they're actively choosing it. You don't want the player base to like resent you. Well, last week we were getting, tons of XP and super credits, and they made this change, and now we got to do this thing over here, or now we can't do it anymore. You don't want your player base like resenting you. That's the risk if you tinker with the game too much, if you micromanage the game too much. They can just lock your character in space and drag your POV to the big propaganda TV above the ship. Yeah, something like that, or maybe it's not skippable. The very first time, don't make it skippable, so they have to see like what's going on in the game. It does some of that when the major orders change when you go to the war table. Yeah, my only concern about that is that's a little passive. I want something that's a little bit more in your face. Your ship's democracy officer should say something like, there are new alerts from Super Earth on the war table, so the first time you open the table. That's a good one, Noble. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, those guys are 45 and 48, so if they do 2 more games, they're going to be in their 60s. That's right. Like, people are just being stupid. Has anyone noticed the first planet to the east of Super Earth is called Klendath 2? No, I've not noticed that. I've not paid much attention to the planet names, to be quite honest. Yo, what's good, Warhawk Gaming? How are you? What do you think the new enemy faction would look like? Has it been rumored or leaked? Well, there's a third faction in Helldivers 1, and people said that basically, we can talk about that. There were people that kind of data mined the game, and there's a flying enemy coming, a new faction coming, new weapons coming that are laser-based, a car or like a buggy, and then the mech. And we know the mech's coming. I mean, that they announced that in the one trailer. I'm listening on 2 times to catch back up. Wanted to mention my group has been doing an XP farm too, although ours is the quick eradicate missions on Helldive difficulty. Okay. That same principle though. Same principle. You're choosing a mission. It's fast. Helldiver difficulty, and then you abandon the operation. Right. I'm still getting ninja looted. Someone needs to tell them that the loot is shared. Kill everyone at the LZ and take off. Yeah, there's no reason to do that. I wish people knew that. I wish they knew that, like, I don't know how you would communicate that. There does seem to be, I think maybe there needs to be a little bit, a second tutorial, a comradeship, a camaraderie tutorial, require everybody to do it. Helldivers, it's been brought to our attention that you're turning on each other. We're in this together. And they make you do a tutorial. And the tutorial basically says, samples are shared, idiot. Extracting together gets you more stuff, idiot. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, these people are being idiots. But at some level, you have a game with friendly fire, and, if you're not paying attention in the heat of battle, when someone picks up a sample, the sample count on the top goes up. That should communicate to their stupid monkey brain that, oh, hey, I get that. but people are stupid, and they're like, I want that, and they kill you, and they steal it. And they're not stealing it, they're just wasting a reinforcement. I've been explaining that literally ever since the launch date, every other new player is oblivious to this mechanic. Yeah. It might be time. It might be time for a little re-education, you know. Every time someone picks up samples, it shows on your screen that it added to the team's overall sample count. In the heat of battle, though, I didn't know that, Trill. The first couple times we went down, I didn't know that. You know what else I didn't know? I didn't know that you dropped them. I didn't know. It's crazy. We're all laughing. We're all having fun. I didn't know that samples were dropped. We would end a mission and I'd be like, I thought we got more samples than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just what's obvious to one player is not obvious to another. Sometimes you got to kind of walk somebody through the tutorial to be like, here's how samples work. Here's what happens when you die, right? Like, you've got to hold people's hands sometimes. There's nothing wrong with ensuring that everybody understands the basics. I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem is assuming everybody understands the basics, and then people end up creating really bad habits or, you know, degenerate behavior of, well, I'm going to shoot this player because they just picked up the samples and I was running over there first. It's like, killing your teammates is undemocratic. Would you like to know more? It doesn't explicitly say it's team pool. Yeah, you could misinterpret and be like, oh, it's letting us know that 10 of the possible 20 samples have been found. Like, again, you don't know how people are going to interpret such a limited amount of data. You know, such a limited amount of information. They might interpret it, again, wrongly and think, oh, well, I've got to kill my teammates or I'm not going to get those samples. When you die, you drop the stuff that you have. Well, not all team samples, sure, but the first couple times that I died, I got reinforced really far away from where I died, didn't realize you could use the map to see your stuff, and didn't realize that I had not just dropped my weapons, I had also dropped samples. I didn't know. Also, if you're playing with people that know that you drop samples and you die and they pick up your samples, you might have no clue that you dropped your samples. Do you see? It's just like there's too many things that can happen where the player's going to be freaking clueless. They're going to be like, I didn't know that was happening. I played this game for probably 15 hours before I realized how certain things worked. Somebody in chat had to tell me if you hold down the reload button, you can change rate of fire and your scope. Like, the game doesn't tell you that. I think there are some small studio faux pas here. Like, there's just things they left out and didn't tell you. We all know Lona doesn't read on-screen prompts. If you think that's unique to me, a lot of people don't read the on-screen prompts. They don't. Did you guys know you could do this? Did you guys know you can run and shoot the Uzi back like that? Isn't that cool? Like, so you can run and shoot back with the Uzi. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool animation. I don't know how effective it is, but you know, it looks cool. If you get reported multiple times, you should get some kind of title on your account like Tyrant or Dictator so everyone knows you're right. That's funny. That's funny, Eugene. Turn your reticle on always and you're more accurate. All SMGs and handguns can be fired whilst running away. Oh, really? Jake says, it's very noticeable when you do drop items when you die, but sure, I can see how that could be missed. Right, because well, here's the thing, Jake. If a lot of the times you get ragdolled and you go flying, you get exploded, you get blown up, something drops on you and your body goes flying. Again, in the chaos of war, you might not notice that you dropped your samples, especially if someone else picks them up before you even get back down to, back down to the planet. Every time I shoot back while running like that, my Helldiver switches left to right rapidly. It looks hilarious. I have kept the Uzi since unlocking it. It's actually pretty clutch for a quick couple of kills when needed. Yeah, I like using it on the really, really small bugs because, I want to save my primary ammo. That's typically what I do with the Uzi. If you get reported multiple times, you get the same dialogue if you leave the mission area. Traitor detected, and you get bombarded from fleet for your next couple of missions. Oh, it says it on the weapon description? Yeah, like that shoe fits. I didn't read that. Is 500 the common sample cap? I actually don't know. You can set your weapon aim preference per weapon in the settings too. Just go into the FPS immediately when you aim, or you can keep it in third person depending on the individual weapon. Yeah, I had one with the sniper, anti-material rifle. If you ADS, I believe every time you pull it out, it will be ADS. It will already be aiming down the sight, or aiming, in this case, it'd be aiming down scope, which the scope is the sight, but you know what I'm saying. And then anytime you pull it out, it's already aimed up. That is, that I think is nice. You exclusively roll with the revolver. I liked the revolver, but I didn't like the ammo. Doesn't make sense. The ammo count never made sense to me. I felt like I was always reloading it, and then I would look at the ammo count and be like, I don't know what the heck that means, You can change the damage level of the railgun from safe to unsafe. No, I just hit level 20. So last night I went and bought the railgun, but then my wife and I were we got back a little bit late, and the kids went to bed late, so we were like starving. So we were having some popcorn, and I was like, I don't want to try and play Helldivers and eat. So we ended up just watching more Twilight Zone instead. Yo, that's your 20th super chat, Dark Taco. Thank you so much. Good night. That's a lot of super chats. A 10 spot says, Lono, how are we not talking about the breaker shotgun power creep? I feel like it's the one weapon that allows me to feel comfortable not bringing any heavy weapon stratagems, not calling for nerfs, by the way. Yeah, in the realm of weapon nerfs and buffs, Dark Taco, I advocate for raising everything else. Do you want to know why? The game gets ridiculously hard. It's not like people are out here just breezing through the hard difficulties because of the breaker shotgun or even the railgun. So raise the other, if there are weapons that are too weak, just raise them up. You raise me up. Like, just raise them up to the efficacy of the other weapons. So then it's more a matter of preference instead of, that's crap, this one's good. Yo, JC, Agents of Chaos. We sat on 50 out of 50 for a while. We are 50 members away from hitting... Oops, that's supposed to be a 75. We are 50 members away from hitting 3,100 members. Thank you so much, JC. Not adjusted for inflation. The average price paid in 2028, average price 45. Games have become cheaper. Good night. You raised me up, you like that? No need to nerf the breaker. No, do not nerf it. No. Incentivize me to use another weapon by making the other weapons worth using. Like, that single fire gun should be wrecking. That one that, like, it's got a really nice scope on it, and you can't switch it to full auto. It's just like pling, 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 pling. That gun should be just boom. I mean, pieces should be flying off. Enemies should just be dying. Because if not, the gun will never, ever be considered that effective. You're always going to be like, this thing takes forever to do anything. The breaker shotgun on a charger, you get behind him, you're just like, clunk, 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 clunk. And you chunk them. It literally feels like you're using a heavy weapon. So I think that's how you get me to switch up. You don't nerf the breaker. It's all with weapons and games like this. This is exactly why this game should never, and I'm glad they have no plans to. This game should never add PvP. Because the minute you add PvP, you're going to get into those terrible scenarios where they have to nerf a weapon because it's killing people too fast. No. Because it's a PvE game with an ever-going up scale of difficulty, Risic comes in with a 10 bomb and takes us to 61 members on the day. He's like, come on, boys. We got an extra day in February. Let's go for the 3,500 stretch goal. You get some of the big boys in here. We can do it. We can use the leap day. We can use the leap day to leap the member count. I'm sorry I said that. Anyway, in a game like this that's PvE where the difficulty can scale up to the degree that it does, you don't need to nerf stuff. You don't. You just make the weak stuff stronger. You know? Yeah, exactly, Jake. The explosive auto rifle from the premium pass. I was so excited to try that thing out. It's terrible. It's awful. Raise it up. Make it strong. What are we doing here? Make it worth using. Like, why? Why are we doing this thing? Now, again, I think this is always going to happen in video games with guns. There's always going to be guns that are, so-so, and there's going to be the breakouts. But you should never leave your weapon pool in a lopsided nature like that. We're like, well, everybody's using there's the one primary weapon that it's an SMG. Everybody's using that in the breaker. Like, that's basically everybody. That's all I ever see anybody using. Oh, the breaker incendiary is also good occasionally. I don't have that one yet. Yeah. Maybe it would be better against new enemy type. That is possible, Eugene. There's also the possibility of them to use modifiers and to say, right now, all incendiary weapons are shredding. And then everybody's like, oh, I'm going to get out my incendiary. That's why you need those war table messages to hit people in the face, right? You need people to come in and you need people to say, okay, they just buffed all these weapons, and then you're going to switch. Like, if you've got to check the L2, R2 little message down in the corner, like, a lot of people just aren't going to do that. They're just going to roll with what they've been using. The breaker incendiary is weaker than regular. That's sadly how they always do it. Anytime I've always played games like this, and when they put explosive damage or incendiary damage on something, they split the damage and it makes the weapon less effective. It's like, what? Base damage should stay the same, and the incendiary and the explosive damage should come on top of it, and it should complement your loadout, because you would use it in particular instances like, well, this planet or these enemies are more susceptible to explosive damage, or these enemies are more susceptible to incendiary damage, and then you could have enemies that are more susceptible to ballistic damage, and so you wouldn't want to use incendiary, or you know what I'm saying? I've never understand why they do that. It's like, I've always played games like this, and it's like, why do you do that? Why don't the devs think through and say, well, we basically made a perk that makes you not want the gun? Like, if you're playing a game like this, DPS and reload speed becomes the primary thing that you focus on. Why? Well, because the amount of damage you can do per second is directly affected by reload speed. They're in a relationship together, and the better they are, the better your damage output, the more effective and efficient you feel as a player. Then you get a weapon that adds explosive or incendiary, and then you feel like, well, that just hurt my damage. You know? And you're like, well, why would I do that? Why would I work against the direct thing that I'm trying to do? I've never understood that. The incendiary is the best gun to destroy eggs, period. It's also good for crowd control against bugs. Yeah, but that's the problem, Takashi. If I'm down there, then okay, then if you want to do contextual efficacy, fine. Let me turn the incendiary and the explosive off then. Let me turn it off. It's like, oh, there's eggs. Let me turn it on. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff in front of me. Let me turn it on. It does not hurt your damage. Every single person that I've seen talk about this and has crunched the numbers has said that it does. So are they all wrong? I mean, my experience certainly lined up with what they said. When I started using the one incendiary weapon, or I'm sorry, the one explosive weapon, I 100% felt like my gun was less effective. I was like, I'm not killing anything nearly as fast. Now, I would stun them a teeny bit. So the crowd control aspect was nice. But you know what's really good at crowd control? Killing the enemies is a great way to control the crowd. Just shooting them and then they die. That's more effective than stunning them. It's crazy how the base Liberator outperforms the other two versions of the gun. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, stunning them is great, but killing them is better? You said you didn't use the gun yet, so how did you know? I said I didn't use the incendiary shotgun. I used the explosive Liberator, and it made me less effective. I use it all the time. It's one of the best guns in the game. You using it all the time and it being a good weapon, people have said that the incendiary shotgun, the breaker, is quite good. We're talking about the other ones. You have burn damage over time. And again, burn damage over time is nice in certain instances, but other times you just want to kill things as fast as you possibly can. Damage over time is not as effective as just blowing something away. It's that simple. Like, if you and I go into a fight and you're using the incendiary shotgun and I'm using the standard breaker shotgun, and I'm killing things faster than you, there are times where that's going to be super, super helpful. Now, if you're using it against something that's bigger and tends to take more time to kill, the dot damage can start to help over the length of the fight, and then suddenly you're finding your weapon is better. But again, that's contextual to that particular instance and fight. If I've got 8 things coming at me, I want to be like, clunk, clunk, dead, clunk, clunk, dead, clunk, clunk, dead, clunk, clunk. I want to just put them all down as fast as I possibly can. Burning them over time doesn't do anything to me. It's like they're right there in front of my face. They're going to kill me. They need to die ASAP. The burn damage is only effective against bugs. You want explosive damage against the bots. Do you notice the explosive damage being particularly effective against the bots, or is it just more visual? Like, oh, well, their parts and their pieces break off. Takashi says, that was me pointing out why it's occasionally. Right, and that's why maybe the right decision would be to let somebody using an incendiary weapon or an explosive weapon just turn that off. And then when you're like, oh, here comes that particular enemy or this particular instance, and then you can turn it on at the press of a button or something. You know, that might be a good way to say, well, this is going to complement your play style, not hamper it. Like, if 75% of the enemies I'm fighting, it's not helping me with them, but there's these 25%, there's these instances where it helps. Dude, I'm not going to use that freaking weapon. There ain't no way. It staggers the bots decently. Yeah, again, I feel like killing them with the breaker shotgun is so fast. I don't feel like staggering them is a need. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's solving a problem. It just feels like it's changing the way things look a little bit and potentially elongating a fight. With the breaker shotgun, if I've got 3 or 4 enemies in front of me, I chunk them each twice and they're dead. Like boom, 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 and they're down unless they're the bigger guys. And so stunning them, you know, and again, maybe stunning would be really helpful against the bigger guys. Well, then I would hit a button and be like, okay, I'm not fighting the meat and potatoes enemies. I got a huge guy coming my way. And I would turn on the explosive rounds. None of this is like a 4-scale alarm problem, you know. But I think these are ways they could make the weapon pool more exciting and more inviting for sure. Staggering them is definitely a big bonus at the higher levels when there's many more bugs than you're used to. Have you played on the Hellmire planet during the day in the Terminid sector yet? It's probably one of the coolest looking planets I've played. I don't know if I've played that one in that particular setting yet, Trill. We are going to be playing today. We're going to look over the patch notes from yesterday and, try out the game for about an hour. And so if you guys want to play with me, make sure you're all booted up and updated and ready to go. Dead Helldivers Joel, there you go. Reforge almost caught up, says Shu. Agree, our farming strat conceptually similar to your concerns, but key difference is we finish those missions always. Also, fire rate adjust tip is shown on the ship's big screen. Yeah, but I mean, you got to take people through a tutorial for that. And Shu, I'm not taking issue with you. You are completing the missions. I'm talking about the operation. So the operation typically has 2 or 3 missions attached to it. And the XP farm, you do the really fast mission and you extract, and then you abandon the operation so you can go find another fast mission. That's the issue, is that, and I'm not scolding you, I'm simply describing your actions. You're going into the game, and instead of completing operations and helping the percentage points go up, you're actively choosing to not do that the entire time you're playing, which is, the more people do it, the less effective we are as a player base. We're going to start losing planets. We're going to lose the fight if more and more people start doing that. Which is why I don't think that you scold or restrict or punish somebody for doing this. You try to incentivize them to do something else. Try to play in a different way. You're going to try to play today? Okay. As I've said, Penetrator's my go-to. I almost never play with Breaker any longer. I know it's the best one in the game, but not the only one viable. Though I agree, half of the guns need to be tweaked. If you don't finish operations because of farming, you're a trash player, period. No, I don't think they're a trash player. I think they're a completely normal player. I think they're a completely normal player. They're doing what all players always do. They find what is most effective and they do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you can control the human element. That's what we do as humans. It's instinctive. It's something that's like innate in you to say, what's the most effective way to achieve the goal that I'm trying to achieve? We do it in survival situations. We do it in business. We do it in video games. Normal players play everything. I don't. That's just simply untrue. I don't think that I don't know what you mean by normal players, but not all players play like that. I don't think anybody's saying all players. What I'm saying is players that choose to play that way, it's totally normal, right? Now, if you value your enjoyment over efficiency, right, you still have a goal. You just have a different goal than the other guy. Your goal is, I want to have enjoyment. I don't want to just focus on grinding. So your goal is different. You're still going to take the path of least resistance to get to that goal. So your goal is, I want to enjoy the game and play it as it's been designed. You just have different goals. When a human being has decided that this thing over here is my goal and I want to achieve it, you will find the fastest way to get to it. You will. It's why the workout guides, diet guides, farming guides, every guide you can think of on the internet, the reason they're so popular is because that's what human beings do. You want to lose weight? You want to get into shape? You want to farm this currency? You want to level up your character? This is the fastest way to do it. You don't share the goal that they have. The person that's next to you is like, well, I want to level up. You're like, I'm just trying to have fun. Your goals are different. Normal players take the path of least resistance. Everybody takes the path of least resistance. You just might have different goals than the person next to you. It's easy to get max levels. I really don't understand the farmers. People have limited time, you know? People have limited time. If somebody on the weekend is like, you know, hey, I only have 3 hours to play on Saturday, and that's it for the week, and all of his buddies are in, you know, mid-30s, and he's in the 20s, you know, on level or whatever, and he wants to catch up with his friends, it makes perfectly good sense that he's going to say, hey guys, what's the fastest way for me to catch up to you guys? And they might take him into harder content where he's not as strong, and he might die a lot, and he might not be that effective at the game, but his goal is different than my goal. His goal is to level up and catch up with his buddies. I wouldn't do that. I would never let people drag me into content that is high level and I'm dying the whole time, because I don't enjoy that. Do you see, like, we have different goals, so our behavior is determined by that. Like, I don't know if there's such a thing as, like, this is a normal player or a good player or a bad player. Everybody is playing this is playing the game hoping to achieve the goal that they've set out for. Shu says, Reforge scold away. In fairness, we do go back to knock out those previously ignored missions in the operations once farming is done. Overall goal in the end is to run content on the highest difficulty. Yeah. So you might end up circling back and helping. The concern would be that a lot of people aren't doing that. That would be my guess, is that a lot of people are not doing that. They're just abandoning the operation and not circling back. And even then, when you circle back, it would be starting over. It doesn't, like, save your progress. At least I don't think it does. Doesn't it pop up and literally tell you you're going to have to abandon this and, like, you basically lose your progress? I will always do what I find more fun, says Takashi, regardless of the path of least resistance or metas. Well, I mean, and that's the philosophical conundrum of man, is that he always chooses what he thinks is best in that moment. You always choose what you think is best in that moment. If you've determined that that's the best way to play, and the guy next to you's determined a completely different way is the best way to play, you are determined. You will choose that. You will, every time. Once you leave, you lose progress. Right. So it's not like you can go back and be like, hey, we did 5 of these. Now let's go finish those 5 operations. Like, that's not like a way to do it. I really was pushing to win that campaign. Which one? There was one that we lost, but there were people theorizing it was because the one mission was bugged. The one mission was like bugged. It wasn't working properly. And so people stopped doing it. This is what I was told. Again, the NPCs were bugged and they weren't going to, like, the exit door. Dev says there's no negative effect for leaving, but there's no positive effect as well. Hence, it's more negative overall. Well, and they very specifically were simply pushing back on a false notion that was said. This is what they said. They said that when you abandon a mission or an operation, they said it doesn't automatically hand a win to the automatons. They didn't say that it has no negative effect. I mean, they gave that impression. They kind of said that, but they kind of didn't. And so my pushback is, number one, they're wrong. That simply isn't true. If they're going to say that, like, if they come out and just flat out say that, if more and more people start playing in this way, it won't have any negative effect on the galactic war, that is wrong. That is simply not true. If you have larger and larger pockets of the player base not completing operations, then we will lose planets. We will not move the percentage. The more people that do this, the slower all those counts are going to go, and then you'll start to see it does have a negative effect on the game. The only thing they push back on is there was somebody in their Discord that confirmed something that wasn't true. People were worried. They're like, wait, if you're abandoning operations all day long, you're handing a win to the automatons. And somebody was like, yeah, that's how it works. So the devs came in and says, no, you're not. That's not how it works. And so everybody ran with that and said, oh no, you're wrong, Lono. If people are doing this, it's not having a negative effect. And I'm like, now hang on a minute. That simply isn't true. If thousands of people a day are doing this, instead of spending 1 or 2 hours completing operations, they spend 1 or 2 hours never completing operations. That 100% will have a negative effect, especially if they're matchmaking. If they're matchmaking and they're just going in and abandoning with super credits, another player has no idea what's going on. And that might have people leaving, that might have people quitting or playing less. That's all going to affect the way that the Galactic War plays out. What's the harm in the community taking 20 straight L's in a row? Getting absolutely pummeled in the war is a more interesting story. I mean, that's subjective to you. I think pushing back and winning and going into new sectors, I think that's more interesting. Like, that's just a difference of opinion there. I mean, you might think it'd be really funny for us to basically lose the war and be like, well, now what do the devs do? We've all been pushed back. You know, Super Earth gets overrun and blown up. I mean, then what do we do? Like, I'm of the opinion it'd be fun to push back on the sectors and win more and win more and win more and go to new areas, new planets, and to feel like we're dominating. I think that would be more interesting. They basically indicated that they don't know where the game's going to end up. I said my opinion. I know what I'm saying is that that's just a difference of opinion. Like, there are going to be people that look at it very differently. So you don't. Here's the thing, though, Patrick. You wouldn't want us to lose the war. I'm not saying you, specifically you. I'm saying in general. I don't think we would want to lose the war because people are playing in a degenerate way. You'd want to lose the war because we lost the war. You'd want to lose the planet because we lost the planet, not because people are playing like boneheads, like running around grabbing super credits and leaving, grinding XP and abandoning operations. Like, if that's why we lose, that's kind of stupid. It's like, we didn't actually lose. We lost because players were playing in odd ways. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not interesting to me. Like, I kind of agree with you. If we lose a sector or we lose an area, and man, it's like a ping pong match, right? It's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and like, oh my gosh, we're losing. I would rather that be organic and real, not something that's brought about inorganically because people are playing very strangely. Not straight up lose, just get pushed back far. Look how far the front is gone of Super Earth. Once you play high levels for a bit, they become easier. The Orion sector just opened up. Oh, did it? Defend 8 settlements. I couldn't figure out how to complete the campaign. What? What are you talking about, Parched? I missed part of it, but if farming refers to some taking all the credits, I tried to balance that out with different loot spots with my teammates. Oh, no. So, let me try to catch everybody up on what exactly is going on. If you guys haven't been here yet this morning, go through the ritual of smashing the like button. We only need about 60 more likes, so make sure and do that. Get us to 300 likes. That'll help out. We're sitting at 61 members on the day. I've already gifted the 10 that I owe you. If we get to 75, I'll owe you 5 more. We're about 40 members away from being at 3,100 members. And if we can hit 3,500 before the end of February, we were going to do something really fun next week on the 8th for Friday night. But might be a little bit out of reach. That's okay. Maybe we could set a smaller goal of like 3,250. If we do 3,250, we'll still do something. We're going to do a community game night no matter what next week. Like, I'm not going to take it away. We were just having a fun stretch goal where Creature would have to come on that Friday night and hang out with all the members. Anyway, let me catch you up on what exactly is going on. So there's 2 forms of farming that I believe need to be curbed and in some way addressed. Now, I am not advocating for punitive or restrictive. I don't think players should be punished or stopped. I think they should be incentivized to play differently. Like, hey, we know you want super credits and XP. We've made some changes to make this the best way to get super credits and XP, okay? So the first thing people are doing is the super credits farm, where they go on a mission and they drop down and they go to all the locations where there's super credits, and then they just leave. They don't extract. They don't work on any of the stuff on the planet, because you do not need to extract to get super credits. Now, you do need to extract to get samples and XP. Okay, so that's the first grind. Concern there would be super credits are always relevant. It's real currency that you can buy with real money, and there's always going to be battle passes and skins to buy, so that's always going to be a very winsome way to play the game because you just get super credits all day, right? And if you matchmake in with people doing that, you're not going to know what's going on. And these people are actively spending their time like not completing missions and not completing operations. The other farm that's going on is an XP farm where they set the difficulty to Helldiver, which is 9. This is generally going to be reserved for people in the like level 30s, like higher level people. And they look for the fastest missions, and they do those missions really fast. And they actually extract because they want the XP. They get a 250% bonus because they have chosen the Helldiver difficulty. And then they abandon the operation. So when you select an operation, there's sometimes 2 or 3 missions that you have to do. They do one mission, it's the fastest, and then they abandon the operation. So now you have another pocket of the player pool that I believe will grow, playing the game in a way where they are not winning operations and mission points for the planets. And my concern is both of these farms, this farming behavior, it will spread. More and more people will do it. You'll run into it in your matchmaking, and we will start to notice that winning and defending planets becomes harder and harder as more and more people basically don't play the game in the intended way. Yeah, a failed extraction, gives them points, but not abandoning the mission or abandoning the operation. According to the devs, when you abandon a mission or an operation, it does not give the enemy an automatic win. Failed extractions due to abandoning. Wait, so did they clarify? Were they just talking about abandoning operations when they said that it doesn't help the enemy? When you abandon a mission for super credits, a gifted member from Patrick Q. Thank you so much, Patrick Q. He pokes the line and says, come on, boys, do something. Let's get that member count up. Thank you so much, Patrick. And guys, make sure that your likes are sticking, okay? Likes, that the thumbs up on YouTube has been acting kind of weird. Make sure that you've hit it and it's staying, because we typically have a little bit more than this, and I don't think it's your fault. I think YouTube's been acting squirrely again. I was watching a video the other day. I hit like. I went back to the video, and the like was gone. So make sure it's saving your likes. They have made some changes to the front end. They've made some nice changes. I think the UI is looking really nice on YouTube, but abandoning leaves the team shorthanded, and they may not extract. I did missions and was like, why is this crap still at 5 out of 8? Even if you finish very fast, it will take at least 15 minutes. There's no way we had 5 out of 8 wins, and then these XP farms popped up and we didn't progress at all. I appreciate that the devs seem mostly to be letting the community figure it out. Yes, I have been more in support of the devs not over managing or overreaching. We do not want them to start tinkering with the game to a fault, and then people feel like they're being like, it's like a nanny, right? Like a nanny dev, not like a nanny state, but like a nanny dev, where they're like micromanaging and parenting you, like hall monitoring. I don't think the devs want to do that, and I don't think we want them to do it either. They should just reward you for completing missions, at least 1/3 or half, depending on the operation completion. My suggestion has been that you need to extract to get the super credits. There's a risk there because super credits are an actual currency that costs money, and it is my belief that as soon as you pick them up, they are credited to your account instantly to avoid anybody getting like really upset that, hey, I bugged out or I disconnected or somebody booted me from the team and I lost my super credits. So I think that one's a little sticky. That one's kind of tough because if you require extraction, there's some toxic behavior in the community where, you know, people go to extract and they wrongfully think they're going to get more samples and more XP if they kill everybody and boot them and then board without them, right? So, in general, I don't know how exactly you handle that. Like, if you require extraction for the super credits, that sounds like an easy solution, but that could bring with it some complications. Now, as far as the people that are farming for XP, you want them to feel like what they're doing is foolish because you want to increase XP gains and bonuses for completing operations. You want them to say, this is dumb, what we're doing is dumb, this is preferred, this is better. You know what they want. Give them what they want. Give it to them in the form of completing the operation. The XP farm 100% hindered the community effort. We just don't know the percent that the enemies when we lose, says Liquid Smoke. We're supposed to be disposable soldiers with minimal training, and if the devs don't tell us too much, it keeps the narrative. For sure, but they can break the fourth wall, Brett, in a way that other games can't. They can make a message, like when you get into the game and you get to the war table, and they can be like, all right, Helldivers, we're seeing some things out there that are troubling. You know, people are abandoning missions and abandoning operations. You know, we want to keep you in the fight. And they motivate you to not do that with, I don't know, like if you extract, maybe they give you a multiplier on all super credits found. So now you're motivated to like, well, we got all these super credits, we should extract, we'll get a bonus. So sure, you could still go down, get super credits and not extract. They'd be immediately credited to your account. But you want to motivate people to stay in. You want to motivate people to be like, no, extracting is the better choice. Same thing with people doing the XP farm. You want them to feel like what they're doing is not the best. The best would be completing the operation. Yeah, desertion will not be tolerated. Like, work within the lore of the game. They can scold us and reprimand us in a way that's funny and doesn't feel like we're getting punished or having a finger wagged in our face. Orion sector 92% liberated. Nice. They could do a stacking bonus that increases with each extraction, kind of like the multiplier for strikes. Right. Yes. Yeah. Something like that. Something like that. Brett says, oh, for sure, I agree with that. I'm just saying the world they built is fun because they don't give us all the info. Well, I actually do think, and I advocated for this earlier, I actually do think that they need to do some re-education. There should be a required tutorial that teaches people that the samples are shared. Extracting with everybody gets you more. Like, stop kicking people, stop killing people, stop stealing samples, you bunch of boneheads. You're actually hurting yourself and upsetting other players for no reason. You guys are being idiots out here, right? If you all extract together, you get more. You guys are dumb. Like, you gotta have some re-education, because I don't think people realize that's why people are being toxic, because they think that everything is not shared, because they're not paying attention. Saber Interactive, developer of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, will leave Embracer in a $500 million deal to become privately owned. The biggest move yet in his Embracer's ongoing cost-cutting initiative. Yeah, I'd get out of there if you can. If you can get out from Embracer's ownership healthily, then just do it. Get out of there. What if they make operations that caters with XP and quick runs, while another operation is longer but gives bonuses for samples? I mean, there's a couple things they could try. I don't think that's necessarily a good or bad idea. You'd have to kind of throw it out there and see what happens, because you just don't know how players are going to respond. Right? You have no idea how players are going to respond, because they could respond in a positive way, negative way. There's a lot of things that can end up working for or against what we would consider to be, organic or healthy player behavior. The thing that you want is people playing the game in a varied way so that they don't burn out. Like, the devs have a vested interest in you not getting bored. Like, they have a vested interest in you not getting burned out, because that means you're more likely to keep playing and come back when they do new stuff and spend money. If they just let you wring the game out like a rag and get burned out and get bored, if they let you do that, that works against their aims and their own success. So we're in this together. Like, we're in this together, Helldivers, right? It's a symbiotic relationship. You can't let people just do whatever the heck they want, but you also can't overreach and irritate people and micromanage. It's a delicate balance. Many games make the mistake of swinging the pendulum, and then they can't stop it from swinging. It creates a cause and effect that reverberates for months. They overreach and they tick people off, and then people start doing something else. You know, it becomes player behavior whack-a-mole. It's like, well, we got people to stop doing this, kaplunk. Well, now they're doing this, kaplunk. And the whole time you're doing that, you're hemorrhaging players that are getting annoyed and they feel like they're being punished or restricted. So it's not an easy, it's absolutely not an easy path. But I actually think they're one of the few games that can do it in a way where they break the fourth wall, they talk directly to us, and they can modify what you can and can't do in a way that I think ends up helping the game in the long run, rather than just like letting things run amok. Half the folks I played with week 1 have stopped playing already. Now, Takashi, would you say they stopped playing because they did they do it by saying, I'm sorry, did they say, oh, well, I'm max level, I'm done? Did they burn through the game, or did they just get bored on their own? Like, how are they playing? Were they doing the grind like you described in the Discord? Because I know there are people that have already taken breaks. There's people that are. It's gonna. The numbers will always go down for a game like this. Always. They hit level 50. Yeah. See. So you don't want to smack a player like that and almost like force them to keep playing, but they ripped through the game, wrung it out like a rag, optimized it like crazy, and now they're not playing anymore. That could be an exact test case for what I'm talking about, because now they might be way less likely to come back to the game because they're just like, I just burned myself out. I played too much. This game is one of those games, though, that the minute you come back, it feels fresh and it feels fun, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I took a break. People are going to take breaks no matter what. You want them to take breaks in a way that says, that was really fun, I'm out of stuff to do, I'll come back when there's new stuff. You don't want them to say, I'm done, I'm burned out, I shredded the game, in like wet tissue paper, and there's nothing left for me to do. Capped all like myself, my friends just told me a couple of days ago I don't need to play anymore, but that's my point. He didn't farm at all. So how did they play then? Did they just play a ton? I mean, that sounds like they played a lot. Because, I mean, I've put in over, where am I now? Close to 40 hours? I can't even remember. And I'm like level 20. How many hours would you say, how many hours do you think it's taking on average to hit to 50? To hit 50, level 50, how many hours are people playing? Because I don't think it's not like an hour, one level per hour, right? It's not like 50 hours to get to 50. It's more than 50 hours, isn't it? You're level 22. You've got 150 plus hours. I was going to say, I would imagine you've got to put in well over 100 hours to hit level 50. You can max out pretty quick if you play the higher difficulties. Let me see how many hours I played. You think it's around 100? Hang on one second. Yeah, I played for 38 hours, and I'm at level 20. Yeah. Yo, Fonzo, welcome back. 34 months. I hit 50 a week and a half ago. Over 100 hours from me, level 38. Jiminy Christmas. That's crazy. That's a lot of hours to only be level 38. Tell you what we're going to do, guys. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes. This is something we've been doing at the end of a stream. We are going to be playing the game together today. I want to check out the new patch, read the patch notes with you, but I am going to switch chat into members only. We do this for the last 15 minutes of the show, sometimes the last 30 minutes of the show. It's your opportunity to ask me anything about gaming. It's a great time to cap off the member goal, because then I gift a little bit more, you gift a little bit more, and a bunch of new people get to kind of sample some members only content. If you do want to become a member, make sure when you join to select the $6 tier. The $5 tier is reserved for gifteds. Gifteds get into the Discord like everybody else, but they only get into some of the members-only content as a way to sample it. And if you decide that you like the members-only content when you sample it, you can upgrade and enjoy yourself. So you guys can now ask me anything about gaming. It's an opportunity to say, okay, we've talked about Helldivers enough. We've talked about the main topic enough. I've been wanting to ask you about this other thing that's been going on in gaming, or these other developments in gaming. There were more layoffs yesterday and throughout the night and this morning. It seemingly isn't going to stop anytime soon. I'm 35 with 30 hours. That's pretty effective. But I've been farming eradication missions on level 9. Yeah. That's crazy that you're 35 with 30 hours and I'm 38 hours and I'm only level 20. That's a pretty big difference between the two, you know? Did the Superstore rotate? It did. The Superstore rotated again. So they've rotated back on the light body armor that's a medic. I've not been buying the heavy armor because I don't like it, at all. And they've said that the armor is glitched. It's not actually changing or doing, the stats aren't working right or whatever. I'm not sure why that is. It wasn't saving my stuff either. It wasn't saving my finger guns and other things. There's no point hitting a level cap in this game right now. Why even care about the level if you want the resources? Well, I think people go for level caps because it's a sense of achievement. It's a sense of accomplishment. Yeah. Lono, what do you think about people attacking Jeff Keighley over not tweeting about the layoffs? I think these people are entitled and immature, and they need their emotions validated by someone, and it's not Jeff Keighley's responsibility to use his platform to say what they think that he should say. It also is an oversimplification of the issues with the layoffs, as if there's an answer or a drum big enough that if we bang on it, it will stop it from happening. Yeah. I think people are upset and they're angry. And when you're insecure and when you're needing emotional validation from strangers on the internet, you will look for scapegoats and you will attack people because it makes you feel better. When people feel powerless before something terrible, they like to attack a person or an entity because it makes them feel better. And all it achieves is ultimately nothing. It's not his responsibility to use his platform to essentially, if he doesn't say it exactly right, he could upset massive potential sponsors for what he does every year. And that's his primary responsibility. His primary responsibility is to his business and himself, not to the whims of people that think he should be speaking out in support of devs. Like saying we deserve a better spokesperson. Then lift one up. Lift one up. Make your own platform. Make your own game awards. Make your own thing. Do it. He's built something, and he has, and he owes nothing to people that think that he should use his platform for this or for that. It's this dictatorship form of altruism. We're going to attack you for not saying something. If you don't say what we think you should say, we're going to attack you. It's like, what? Being a dictator of how the same thing happened with Hogwarts Legacy. You had people being attacked and harassed and villainized because they chose to play a game largely built on lies. People were just propagating lies. If you support that game, it goes to bad organizations. False. Proven false. But that's what people did. That's what people did. I think entitled, immature people constantly self-report on themselves on Twitter. I'm entitled to you doing this thing for me because it would make me feel better. Okay. Why would he say anything? He isn't involved. Also, did he tweet about the Xbox layoffs? If not, people gave him crap then too. He has said virtually nothing about it. I think he's tweeted twice about it. It's just the idea that if you build a platform in gaming, acting as if you must use that platform to speak out about stuff like this. I put out a video this morning. It was a highlight from yesterday. And I said that we can hold both empathy for the people who have lost their jobs in one hand and the cold hard facts of this had to happen in another hand. And I had somebody respond and they're like, oh, I disagree. I think the C-suite and the management are the people that should have been the ones that were the ones that lost or were punished or whatever. And it's like, you're so doe-eyed about business. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't course correct for an industry returning to post-global pandemic levels. A global thing happened, and we're returning to levels before that, and these companies are adjusting to survive it. There was somebody from the one company, the company behind Life is Strange, had to lay off like 20% of their people. And I defended them yesterday. I said, what were they supposed to do? What's the alternative? To not do it, to not adjust to the market, and to just head straight toward the iceberg and then suffer greater financial loss, potentially have to lay off and fire more people, or just shut down entirely. And this woman said, this was not something that we wanted to do. And she said, she indicated that higher ups at the company took pay cuts so that they didn't have to lay off more people. They tried to minimize the damage. But what do we do? What do we do? We attack and we villainize and we go with reductionist ideas and sound bites about what could have been. All these Monday morning armchair quarterbacks who think they understand multi-billion and multi-million dollar organizations that are having to recalibrate for an entire industry. The global gaming industry and the tech industry are recalibrating to survive the future. And we turn it into an opportunity to attack studios and developers and publishers and people like Jeff Keighley. Why? Because people are emotionally immature, and it's their only way of handling something that's upsetting. It's just tantrum throwing is all it is. It's like you cancel somebody for sharing their opinion, but I guess we're also going to try and cancel somebody for not sharing their opinion or saying something. Like him, I've never seen somebody attacked for not saying something. It's just remarkable. It's just remarkable. And let's ignore the fact that the industry is returning to 2019 numbers roughly, and most of these studios are still larger than they were. They have net gained employees. They have grown. We'll ignore that. Because it's so easy to virtue signal and pound on a drum and say, this is terrible, these corporations are greedy, they didn't need to do this. And it's all rooted in ignorance, a lack of understanding of how these businesses operate. Like, you can be empathetic for people that were laid off and feel really bad for them without villainizing and attacking the companies that these people are sad to no longer be working at. Like, it's insane to me that people think that you're helping. It's like when somebody goes through a breakup, you're not always helping that person by villainizing the person that they're no longer with. Like, they're heartbroken, they loved them, and you being like, well, they're a piece of trash. You're not helping them. That's not helpful. These people that are no longer at these companies are sad. They liked the companies. They liked working there. And taking up for them and villainizing the companies is achieving nothing. All it's doing, it's so unironically self-referential. Like, you're making it about you. You're making it about you. Like, the irony of that. You know, all these poor people get laid off, and then you make it about you. You want to go out here and villainize a company or the C-suite or whoever, the management, the executives, whoever, you want to villainize Jeff Keighley. It's just fun. I don't know. That's what I think. I think the whole thing is a circus and it's a joke. The instinct of so many people online to attack others when something like this happens, that's what I find disturbing. That's what I find disturbing. Your instinct to attack others, that's disturbing. Like, people getting self-righteous while actively spending their days attacking others, it's a fish that doesn't know it's wet. It's like, you are so lost. Like, you think you're on some righteous crusade and you're just a toxic human being. You're not waging some war for good. You aren't. You're in some weird temple of self-fulfillment where that's all that matters is making yourself feel better. And you will wage that war righteously every day. And you'll attack others and call them names and clip them and tear them down and put them in videos and write articles about them. This article about Jeff Keighley. It's like, you are not righteous. You aren't. You're just toxic. And you're more worried about your own internal self-fulfillment and emotional validation than what it might do to somebody to put them up on a public stage and just attack them over not saying something. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. Are people getting mad at random people from some gaming studio getting laid off? Yeah, I mean, leveraging something bad that happened to other people to attack another person. It just, the audacity. People lost their jobs. They're now nervous, scared, worried, potentially having to cancel vacations and fun things and worried about paying medical bills and supporting their families and their kids. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to grab this person's trauma and this collective group's, negative downfall right now, this bad thing that's happened to all these people, and I'm going to mold it into a baseball bat that I can hit somebody with. I'm going to hit Jeff Keighley with this. I'm going to attack these YouTubers or whoever's talking about it in a way that's like, yeah, it sucks, but this is required. Like, you're basically weaponizing something bad that happened to another person so you can attack another person. You're not righteous. You're gross. That's what I think. How can I make these other people's problems about me? Yeah. Having pizza for dinner? Nice. Forcing someone to use a platform and a voice that they work to build to regurgitate your feelings is crazy. It's a dictatorial view of reality. It really is. It really is. It's I'm going to attack you if you don't do the thing that I think you should do. It's honestly, it's an abusive mentality. That's the mentality of an abuser. That's the way abusers think. I will inflict pain on you if you don't do the thing that I want you to do. You're an abusive person. You are. You use your platform, your article, your videos, your Twitter account, whatever it is that you use, and you've determined that this person's doing something that you don't think they should do, and you're going to inflict pain on them. We get a glimpse into your soul and your mind when you do that. You're an abusive person. I find that more disturbing than the fact that Keeley won't say something. Or the fact that people use their platforms to, if you think that like I'm an e-beggar or a pony or a grifter, if you think all those things about me, what the frick do you care? Why do you care about how I manage my business? Thinking that he ought not do that, and because he does that, we will inflict pain on him. You're a gross, disgusting, abusive person. And I don't even have to say it. It's demonstrated in your behavior. It's demonstrated in the way that you act. People don't like what Jeff Keighley's doing, and they inflict pain on him. Like, they did the same thing after the Game Awards. They did the same thing. They didn't like how the Game Awards went, and so what'd they do? They just laid into him, called him a coward, said he lacked a moral compass. Like, the high horse, the ivory tower that some of these people must live in, it must be full of shadows. It must be terrible to live like that. To be so incensed and so upset at how a Game Awards ceremony went. Like, what? To be so upset and so angry and disturbed with like how somebody carries out their YouTube channel, or how somebody manages their business, or how somebody manages their platform or their Game Awards ceremony. Like, to sit atop an ivory tower of such self-appointed righteous judgment, it must be full of shadows. It must be a very lonely and miserable life. Insomniac doubled in size under Sony. Any flowers for creating those jobs? And again, that just gets lost in the shuffle, Eugene. Like I said, a lot of these studios are larger than they were 4 years ago. This is a correction, right? We don't want the car to go off the road, okay? Like, this is a correction. And yes, it sucks that means folks get trimmed off and lose their jobs. It does. Both can be true. We view things so dichotomously. It's like this can both be a necessary correction for the flourishing and the success, profitability, and the ability for these companies to continue. It can be that, but it can also be, it sucks. You lost your job, and that's terrible. The inability to have nuance and to look at things with more layers than, who can I bludgeon with this? Who can I attack with this? It's like, go from 275 employees in 2017 to over 500 in 2023. Right. Exactly. A lot of these companies grew. And people are running with this narrative with Insomniac. They're like, these guys are the best. They're carrying PlayStation. This is unconscionable. You know, they shouldn't have been touched. Yeah, they also have the biggest operating budgets, and a lot of it's related to licensure, right? We're seeing this happen with EA abandoning licensed IP. Now, this is not completely Disney's fault, but that's heavily related to how Disney handles their property. If you want to make licensed IP, you want to make Star Wars or Marvel video games, you got to pay the piper. Like, look at what Disney did to Jedi Survivor. They wanted a new Star Wars game every 6 months. And when they made that announcement, I said, that sounds terrible. That sounds like you're going to shove games to market before they're ready. And Jedi Survivor walked out and said, I'll take the first act in that circus of pushing out a game according to a cadence schedule instead of accordance to quality. So Disney's a part of that equation, because if you want to make a Marvel game or a Star Wars game, the license share and what you've got to do to satisfy that agreement, the budget mushrooms from that automatically. It mushrooms automatically. So you can't just say, oh, this is terrible. They don't want to back licensed IP. All these companies are so disappointing. It's like, dude, Disney's a part of that. They're the property owner. They're making it really difficult to license and make Marvel and Star Wars games, which is a bummer because, Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor are great games. This Mandalorian game got canceled that Respawn was making. That's heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. Respawn, of all companies, making a shooter. Making a Star Wars shooter. Oh my gosh. But EA crunched the numbers and said they're staring down the same barrel that Insomniac's staring down. You want to make a licensed Star Wars game, you're going to need to throw absolute buckets of cash at it, and then you're going to have a certain amount of sales. And if you don't have a certain amount of sales, you're going to be in trouble. That's why Blade is a multiplat. There's no doubt in my mind that Blade is a multiplat. There's no way you're going to hit what Disney wants out of Marvel licensed property with only being on Xbox and PC. There's just no way. I'm glad that game got canceled. Why? A shooter from Respawn? A shooter from Respawn. Oh, that'd be good. Did Spider-Man 2 fail to meet projections? No, it exceeded Spider-Man 1, but it had a bigger budget. This is what always gets confused by people that are more interested in running an anti-PlayStation narrative. They'll give you bad information. They'll twist statistics to mislead you. Spider-Man 2 is outperforming Spider-Man 1, but it was more expensive to make. So it will take them... Their margins won't be as fat as quickly as they were for Spider-Man 1. Does that make sense? And that's the concern with Spider-Man 3, is that they anticipate the budget going up even more. So they're thinking of creative ways to make more money off of the game. You would need to... What they're planning on potentially doing with Spider-Man 3 is breaking it into 2 parts and selling each part for $50. So the budget largely remains the same in size, but you end up selling the game for $100 basically instead of $70, because it's 50 and 50. And they end up making more money. That protects the margins. That's how games are having to get creative. Like, Spider-Man 2 has basically no monetization at all, and they've got some skins in the game right now for a limited time, and all the money's going to go to charity, and then the skins will be free later. So 0 monetization. You just buy the game, and that's it. Which, hey, guys, by the way, if anybody's going to try and play Helldivers with me, I'm in the game right now, and you can join. And then when we get in the game, I can put my friend code up, and we can get people to join me, because I am going to read the patch notes first whenever we go over to play some gameplay. There's also, the other thing that people need to consider, it's not just Marvel IP, it's not just Star Wars IP, it's inflation, it's rising cost, it's currency fluctuations globally, like when suddenly a certain currency's value goes down, like that happened with the yen, and a lot of tech companies had to raise their prices because they're suddenly making less money on their product selling in a market where yen is the currency. So there's the globalization of the gaming economy has things on... has effects on things that you can't really account for. It's like, oh my gosh, why do they do that? Well, the yen plummeted. What do you expect? Lono yesterday, I've seen enough of Tifa's breast. Twitter, boy, you haven't seen anything yet. That's right. Thank you for the 5 spot, Insomniac Black. I'm glad it got canceled so Respawn can make a proper first-person shooter. If it's not Titanfall 3, then I hope they innovate. Yeah, Eugene's saying I'm glad it got canceled. Like, you know, A first-person bounty hunter game. Can't see the armor. First-person jetpack would be terrible. I don't necessarily disagree with you that it probably would have been better third person, but... Oh my gosh, that's gross. Where? Okay, we've gone about 30 minutes with the members-only AMA. Let me schedule the gameplay, and we're going to read through the patch notes and play the game. What's your PSN? Reforge TV. Oh, they showed up. They're so cute. I wouldn't mind trying them because they're black. And I like them. Do you like them, Mama? Oh yeah, I like that. That your prescription is different than mine, so it's really weird to look through these. But they are, yeah. So these are the exact same frames that I have, but Madam ordered a black pair for herself. If you guys are looking for blue light blocking glasses, Gamer Advantage has great frames. I'm always changing my frames. Yeah, a lot of their colors are out of stock. It took Madam a while to get her frames. Had all these colors that they couldn't get to or whatever. So if you ever guys order from Gamer Advantage, the link is below in the description of all my videos. Be sure to use code LONO when you do. Oops. All right. There we go. All right, let me schedule this Helldivers. Oops, gameplay stream. We're experimenting with playing Helldivers on a fairly regular basis. And so I've already got a full team. I got Infinite, Trill, and JChell. So we got a full team. I will probably mute you lovingly. I will mute you guys, and we will just do some level 4s and just grind. We will also comb over the patch notes. So we will do that as a way and as a means of just sort of trying out the game with the new patches and the new updates and just seeing how things are going. Especially anytime they add mechs or do fun things in the game, we will make sure and do that on a regular basis. And if the gameplay starts to sort of wane and people don't really want to watch or they're not really into it, we do have a Helldivers updates channel that we could sort of move to if we need to. I don't think we're going to need to do that. You guys have been awesome and stellar and have supported the gameplay quite a bit. We don't really do ongoing gameplay on the channel. We like to showcase games like yesterday, the Star Wars game. We like to showcase games when they come out. Ongoing gameplay is a little bit more tough because we're more of a talk show channel than a single game coverage channel like we used to be way back in the day. A 5-spot from Solar God. Do you think the first content update for Helldivers 2 will release March 2nd? I don't know. But yeah, I can't wait for them to update it and for us to have more fun in the game, for sure. And if you guys want to, here at the buzzer, if you want to pull it up to 75, I'll gift the 5 that I owe. If we hit 75, I've already gifted the 10 that I owe. You can do that. There's a new PlayStation 5 bundle that comes with Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. Nice. AAA development will happen today, tomorrow, and the day after. What we're seeing right now is a result of rampant expansion and hiring over the past 8 years. This is a cost correction, not the death of AAA development. Please stop saying AAA development is unsustainable. All industries go through these actions. Saying AAA development is unsustainable is like saying the production of cars is unsustainable. Both statements are false. Will teams become smaller and project leaders be required to focus on the development? Yes. That's not the same as saying AAA development is unsustainable. The games market isn't crashing or anything even remotely similar to that economic occurrence. Margins and profits hit a soft wall due to what I've already talked about numerous times. Salaries, inflation, large teams, but there is absolutely no sign of a crash of the games market. Consumers are adjusting and some studios will likely struggle, but that's just largely the result of the overexpansion of production. Consumer cash will still be flowing into the industry, and it's not flowing every single product on the market. I'm going to retweet this. This is fantastic. Oops, I'm on the wrong account. Is a bullseye. Gaming news and outlets are being sensational because it drives clicks, not because it is accurate. This tweet is a bullseye post. That's part of the problem. That's really part of the problem with like gaming news, gaming outlets. As I said, they become quasi content creators and they're more driven by click rate. So they're going to drive the fear and they're going to drive this idea that like everything's crashing, everything's terrible. Like, no, no, this is necessary. This is a correction. A lot of these companies are still bigger than they were. You know, all the things we just said 5 minutes ago, all the things we just said 5 minutes ago. A lot of these companies are bigger than they were. You know, they're making profit. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I do believe there'll be a rise of more AA or smaller studios. As I said, a lot of these AAA companies have gotten too big. Remember what I said? You can get so large, it works against efficiency and profitability. And that's exactly what that thread was getting at. So, all right. Before we jump to the new stream, I'm going to quickly run upstairs and come right back down. I don't want to start a new stream and have to take a break, right? Usually we're going to a premiere, but do me a favor. Get us to 300 likes and then help me out with this new stream. When we redirect and go over, we can smash likes, we can gift members. Let's try to like kick it into high gear when we do a gameplay stream. That's super helpful when you guys do that. Again, we do have a Helldivers updates channel, but I would prefer to not move gameplay to that channel if we don't have to. I love doing gameplay here with you guys. I think it's better. We did a Friday night PvP community thing that was a blast, and the turnout was great. So you guys are kind of supporting it and believing in it. We're going to keep doing it. Okay? I'll be right back. Okay, we want to make these gameplay streams also really effective. So what I'm gonna do, like effective and helpful for people, I want to pull up the patch notes, and we'll open up the stream by reading those patch notes. Okay. Here we go. And we'll do that. And what we'll do is we'll come here, and we'll go like that. And then when I'm done reading this, we'll go like this. I'm already in the game. Okay. Can I make the text a little bit bigger? I can. There we go. And then I could probably afford to just fill this space over here. Okay. Thank you guys for 300 likes. Thank you for all the support today. Whoops. Thank you for all the gifted members. We're really close to 3,100 members. That's an amazing milestone. All right, I'm going to provide you guys with the link for the new stream. I will also redirect you to the new stream as well. So hopefully that works. If it doesn't work, you can always go and it'll be the featured video on the channel as well. And I am updating the thumbnail on this stream, so this stream no longer shows as live. So yeah, I've been moving around in-game, and I don't think they do the AFK thing unless they're at capacity. Somebody said the other day it was like non-peak hours, and they sat for a really long time and never got kicked. So all right, new patch gameplay. We want to be live, and we want to go use a couple of tags here. There we go. All right, there you go. Links in chat, and we're going to go live. Thanks so much for checking out this video. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to quickly read the latest patch, brand new patch from Helldivers 2 just yesterday, patch 1.000.13. So this is the latest Helldivers 2 patch. Then we're going to jump in the game and play. We're going to do this periodically here on Reforge Gaming. We covered just this morning some of the problems I think that are emerging with the farming behavior for both super credits and XP. And I really advocated for not punishing or restricting players, but incentivizing and rewarding them to play in better ways that helps the Galactic War Table and helps win operations, not abandon them. So, and I know they said that it doesn't give the enemies wins, but it's also not giving us wins if more and more people are abandoning operations and missions. I'm going to end the previous stream and redirect folks over, and we greatly appreciate you supporting the channel. If you are